Sleep matters.
The Mandela Effect. You remember it so clearly. You saw the cereal box, the movie quote, the name spelled a certain way. Then one day you look again and it's different. Not just slightly. But everyone around you insists it has always been that way. The Mandela Effect is when a large number of people remember something in a certain way that does not match documented facts. It is not about personal memory mistakes. It is about shared false memories that feel completely real. The term came from people remembering Nelson Mandela dying in prison in the 1980s. In reality, he was released and lived until 2013. But the memory was vivid, emotional, and widespread. Scientists explain the Mandela Effect as a result of how our brains store and retrieve memories. Human memory is not a perfect recording. It is reconstructive. Each time we remember something, we rebuild it from fragments. That means the memory can change over time, especially when reinforced by suggestion, repetition, or social influence. The more often people repeat an incorrect version of a fact, the more likely it is others will adopt it as truth. Picture this. You walk into a bookstore and pick up a children's book you grew up with. You stare at the title, The Berenstain Bears. But something feels wrong. You could have sworn it was Berenstein. You even remember how it was pronounced. Yet every copy says the same thing. You check old photos. It has always been Berenstain. That moment of disorientation, of questioning your own memory, is the essence of this phenomenon. The Mandela Effect shows that confidence in memory is not the same as accuracy. What many people believe is not always what actually happened. Memory does not store the past. Sometimes, it creates it. Déjà vu. How can something feel familiar when you are sure it has never happened before? How can your brain recognize a moment you are living for the first time? That sudden wave of familiarity has a name. It is called déjà vu, and it is one of the most commonly reported mental phenomena across cultures. Déjà vu is the eerie sensation that a present experience is repeating or has occurred in the past, even though it clearly has not. It usually lasts for a few seconds, and during that time, a person feels certain that the situation has already been lived. Scientists believe that it is caused by a brief mismatch in the brain's memory systems. The part of the brain that signals familiarity may activate even though the memory of the event was never actually recorded. It is a neurological hiccup where perception temporarily feels like memory. Visualize this. You are walking into a restaurant you have never visited. You glance at the layout, the sound of clinking glasses, the exact way the waiter turns to greet you. And in that instant, a strong wave of recognition washes over you. You are sure this moment has happened before, but you cannot place where or when. Then, just as quickly, the feeling fades. The illusion is over, but the question remains. Studies using brain scans have shown that déjà vu involves activity in the temporal lobe and areas responsible for memory recognition. It is most common in young adults and is not linked to mental illness. It may even be a sign of a healthy memory system attempting to resolve a small error. Déjà vu does not mean you are remembering the past. It means your brain is mistaking the present for something already stored. Familiarity does not always mean truth. Sometimes, it only means timing. Plane stuck in the sky. It is a normal afternoon. You are walking down a street, cars passing, people talking. When you look up and see a plane, but it is not moving. It hangs in the sky perfectly still. Seconds pass. It remains frozen, as if time forgot to touch it. This is what many call the plane stuck in the sky glitch. Videos and eyewitness reports describe airplanes that appear to hover motionless in midair, not flying, not falling, just suspended. These moments are often filmed from cars, backyards, or sidewalks, showing no strings, no poles, and no signs of malfunction. Just a giant machine frozen against the clouds. From a scientific view, there are several possible explanations. One is a visual illusion caused by relative motion. If you are moving at the same speed and direction as the plane, it can appear still. Another is low-speed aircraft like helicopters or prop planes flying directly toward or away from you, making forward motion hard to detect. Sometimes, atmospheric conditions like haze or sharp shadows reduce visual cues, making the plane's movement nearly invisible. But those explanations do not always satisfy. Some cases show large commercial jets hanging over highways with no sound and no flight path alignment. Some footage includes multiple people confirming the same impossible sight. When too many details align and physics still feels broken, people start to believe something deeper is wrong. Imagine driving beneath an aircraft that does not move. You park, you record, you watch for wings tilting, for wheels moving, for the roar of engines, but nothing changes. And then, without warning, it begins to glide again, like the glitch has been fixed. Movement is one of the few constants we trust. So when motion stops without reason, belief begins to shift. NPC. You walk through a crowded street. People pass by. Some talk on the phone. Some sip coffee. Some stare blankly ahead. But one person stands out. They seem to repeat the same movement. Their eyes do not meet yours. You wonder if they even notice you. You wonder if they are real. In gaming, NPC stands for non-player character. It is a character that appears in the world but is not controlled by the player. It moves, talks, and responds in limited ways. In real life, the NPC theory suggests some people act like background characters. They follow scripts. They avoid deep thought. They repeat what they are told. This does not mean they are fake, but it raises a question about awareness and autonomy. Psychologists link this idea to automatic behavior. Much of human life runs on habits. We follow routines. We echo phrases. We respond without thinking. When someone seems emotionally flat or overly scripted, they may be relying on mental shortcuts to get through the day. This does not mean they are not conscious. It means they are conserving effort. Imagine entering a small shop. The cashier says, "Hi," without looking. You ask a question. They respond with something that does not quite fit. You say, "Thank you." They say, "You too," even though it makes no sense. That moment feels off. That is the feeling people describe when they say they met an NPC. The NPC theory reflects how we sometimes feel disconnected from others. It may be a sign that we crave more depth, more presence, more humanity in our interactions. Not everyone who feels flat is empty. Sometimes, people look like they are on autopilot because they are trying to survive, not because they are not real. The subway freeze moment. The train is late. You step into a nearly silent subway platform. One person stands perfectly still, staring at the wall. Another holds a phone but does not touch it. A third does not blink. You stop. You wait. You notice that for several long seconds, no one moves at all. This moment is called the subway freeze. It is not a formal term in psychology, but it describes a real and deeply strange experience reported by many. It happens in public places, especially transit systems, where groups of people seem to pause in perfect stillness. There is no announcement, no alarm, just silence, still bodies. A freeze in human flow. Neurologically, our brains are wired to detect patterns. When the normal rhythm of life suddenly halts, it feels wrong. Our survival instincts depend on movement. When everyone stops, we feel the threat. But sometimes, there is no threat. Just an eerie stillness, with no clear cause. In cities like Tokyo and New York, surveillance footage has captured moments where groups of people remain frozen for up to 10 seconds before life resumes as normal. Some blame fatigue. Others blame overstimulation or group behavior triggered by subtle environmental cues. Imagine walking into an elevator with 10 people. No one speaks. No one sways. They do not even blink. You feel like you walked into a paused scene. The longer it lasts, the less real it feels. Then someone coughs, and everything returns to normal. These freeze moments are not proof of a glitch. They are a reflection of how fragile the flow of human life can be. The reversal is this: stillness is not always peace. Sometimes it is a silence that does not belong. Sleep paralysis. You wake up in the middle of the night. Your eyes are open. The room is the same. The air feels heavy. You try to move but cannot. Your chest feels tight. You hear something. You feel a presence. But no one is there. Sleep paralysis is a real phenomenon that occurs when the brain wakes up before the body does. During REM sleep, the body becomes temporarily paralyzed to prevent acting out dreams. If you become conscious before this paralysis ends, you enter a terrifying state where you are awake but unable to move or speak. It usually lasts a few seconds to a couple of minutes. Some people experience hallucinations. These can include figures in the room, pressing sensations, or whispering voices. The mind is alert, but the body remains frozen in REM atonia. It feels like being trapped inside yourself. Now picture this. You are lying on your back. You hear footsteps. You try to turn your head. Nothing moves. You feel something sit on your chest. You cannot scream. You cannot breathe deeply. The pressure builds. Then suddenly, you blink, and it is gone. You can move again, but the fear lingers. Sleep paralysis is not rare. Studies show that about 8% of the population will experience it at least once. It is more common in people with disrupted sleep, high stress, or irregular schedules. It is also often misinterpreted as a paranormal event because of the intensity and vividness of the experience. This phenomenon teaches one clear truth. What you feel in the moment can overpower what you know logically. Terror does not need evidence. Sometimes it just needs timing. Lucid dreaming. Can a dream become a place where you take control instead of just watching? Can you realize you are dreaming while still inside it and start to change what happens next? Lucid dreaming is when a person becomes aware that they are dreaming during the dream itself. This awareness often allows the dreamer to influence the dream's content. Unlike regular dreams, where you react passively, a lucid dream gives you the ability to make decisions and shape your environment, even while your body is fully asleep. Scientists connect lucid dreaming to heightened brain activity in the prefrontal cortex. This is the part of the brain linked to decision-making and self-awareness. During normal dreaming, this area is less active, but in a lucid dream, it wakes up just enough to let the dreamer become conscious of the experience without fully waking the body. Some people learn to enter this state on purpose through techniques like reality checks, sleep interruption, and focused visualization. Imagine this. You are walking through your childhood home. Everything looks familiar, but then you notice the floor is made of water. You suddenly realize this cannot be real. A light switch flickers when you test it. You understand you are dreaming. You take a deep breath and fly through the ceiling, not with fear, but with clarity. You are not watching the story. You are writing it. Lucid dreams can be used to practice skills, face fears, or simply explore impossible worlds. They offer insight into how the brain creates reality and how consciousness can bend even in sleep. Dreams do not always control you. Sometimes you are the one in charge. Parallel universe. Can two versions of you exist at the same time? Can reality split and move in different directions without anyone noticing? A parallel universe is a hypothetical world that exists alongside our own, but with different outcomes, events, or choices. The concept is rooted in quantum physics, where every decision or event may lead to multiple outcomes, each creating its own branch of reality. These universes exist simultaneously, separated by tiny differences in events that have already occurred. The idea became popular in science fiction, but is also explored in serious scientific discussions. The many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics suggests that every possible outcome of a quantum event actually occurs in its own universe. This means that somewhere, there could be a version of you who made a different choice, lives in a different city, or never met the people you know. Visualize this. You are walking down a street and bump into someone who calls you by another name. They seem familiar. You apologize, but they freeze and say they saw you last week at a place you have never been. You feel a strange chill, like you have stepped into a life that almost belongs to you, but not quite. While no direct evidence proves the existence of parallel universes, the math behind it is sound in quantum theory. Some people claim personal experiences or dreams where they glimpsed another version of their life, but science remains cautious. Reality might not be a single straight line. It could be a tree with branches stretching in every possible direction. Quantum immortality. What if you never truly die? What if, at the moment of death, Your consciousness simply moves to another version of reality where you survive. Quantum immortality is a theory that extends from the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. It suggests that in every scenario where your death is a possible outcome, there is also a universe where you survive. Your consciousness, by its nature, continues only in the version where you are alive. So from your point of view, you never actually die. You keep existing, always in the universe where you made it through. This idea stems from quantum mechanics and Schrödinger's cat experiment, which describes a system where multiple outcomes exist at once until observed. Applied to consciousness, it implies that your awareness always follows the thread of survival, even if others see you as dead in their universe. Picture this. You are in a car accident. Everything goes dark. You feel nothing. Then suddenly, you open your eyes. You are in a hospital bed. The doctor says it was close, but you made it. You remember the crash clearly. You even felt your last breath. But here you are, breathing again. You wonder if you are in the same world. But everything looks just as it should. Quantum immortality does not promise eternal life. It proposes something stranger, that your mind never reaches the end, only sidesteps into the version where the end did not happen. Death may be real for others, but to you, it might always be delayed. The Man from Taured. In the summer of 1954, a man arrived at Tokyo's Haneda airport with a passport from a country that did not exist. He was calm, dressed like a businessman, and spoke multiple languages fluently. When asked about his homeland, he pointed confidently at a map, placing his finger on the border between France and Spain. The country he called Taured was supposedly 1,000 years old. But in our world, no such nation had ever existed. The Man from Taured is one of the most famous cases of a supposed interdimensional traveler. Airport officials, confused by his valid-looking but unrecognizable passport, detained him for questioning. He was placed in a guarded hotel room overnight. The next morning, he had vanished. His documents, belongings, and even his travel records disappeared without a trace. No one ever found him again. While some claim it was a hoax or a mistaken identity, no official source ever confirmed what truly happened. This case became a staple of glitch in the matrix discussions, representing a moment where one version of reality seemed to collide with another. The story challenges how we define truth, borders, and the fixed nature of geography and history. Imagine working at immigration and flipping through a passport stamped by dozens of real countries, yet issued by a place no map has ever shown. You call in others to confirm, and they are just as confused. Everything looks real, but it cannot be. You feel like the world just bent slightly in front of you. Whether a legend or a suppressed anomaly, the story remains powerful. It suggests the boundaries of our world may be thinner than we think. Reality feels stable until someone walks in carrying proof of a place that should not exist. Jamais Vu. You walk into your own kitchen. The same fridge, the same counter, the same clock on the wall. But for a moment, it feels completely unfamiliar, like you have never seen it before. Like you are looking at a stranger's home. That disconnection lasts only seconds, but it leaves you unsettled. Jamais Vu is the opposite of déjà vu. Instead of feeling like something new has happened before, you feel like something familiar is completely new. It means never seen in French, and it describes a mental event where the brain fails to recognize something you know very well. It is not about forgetting facts. It is about experiencing a sudden break in recognition. This phenomenon is often linked to fatigue, repetition, or neurological patterns that disrupt normal memory signals. Researchers believe Jamais Vu happens when the brain's circuits misfire during recognition tasks. In experiments, people asked to write a word like door over and over eventually report that the word looks strange or loses its meaning. This repetition fatigues the part of the brain responsible for familiarity. As a result, recognition fails. What you know feels distant, even alien. Imagine entering your workplace, greeting your colleague by name, then suddenly feeling like you are in a place you have never been. You know you work there. You know the person, but your brain withholds the sensation of recognition. It feels like your life skipped a beat. Then just as fast, it all returns to normal. Jamais Vu does not mean something is wrong with your memory. It means your awareness of familiarity blinked for a second. The brain treats sameness as noise, and sometimes it drops the signal entirely. Familiarity is not always stable. Sometimes your mind forgets what your body already knows. Time slip. A quiet alley stretches ahead. No traffic sounds. The lights above flicker gently. You turn the corner and see people dressed in old clothes. The signs are different. The cars are gone. You blink, and everything is back to normal. But for that brief moment, time felt out of place. This is what people describe as a time slip. A time slip is a supposed occurrence where a person appears to move briefly into a different point in time, usually the past. These experiences often happen suddenly and without warning, and they are reported with intense detail. While there is no scientific proof that time travel occurred, the experiences feel real to those who go through them. Common explanations include dissociation, neurological anomalies, environmental triggers, or even misinterpretations of déjà vu or dreams. One of the most famous cases was reported in 1901 by two academics who claimed to have briefly seen 18th century Versailles while walking through the gardens in France. The event lasted minutes, but they recorded descriptions of clothing, sounds, and locations that did not exist in their present day. They were convinced they had walked into another time. Now picture this. You are on vacation in a small town. You step into a shop filled with antiques and notice that the cashier uses an old register and the radio plays wartime music. You pay in cash and leave. Hours later, you return to the same stand. The shop is closed, boarded up, with no sign it was ever open. You ask someone nearby. They tell you that store has been abandoned for years. Time slips are not proof of time travel, but they show how our minds can glitch in complex ways. Sometimes, the present is not what slips. Sometimes, it is our perception of time that bends. Shadow people watching. You turn off the lights, lie in bed, and let your eyes adjust to the darkness. But then you see it. A figure in the corner. Not fully solid, not a trick of the eye, but something darker than the dark. It does not move, it only watches. Shadow people are a phenomenon where individuals report seeing dark, human-like silhouettes, usually in their peripheral vision, often during sleep or moments of fear or silence. These figures are typically described as blacker than black, featureless, and sometimes wearing a hat or cloak. They do not speak. They just observe. Many claim they disappear the moment you try to focus directly on them. This experience is commonly linked to sleep paralysis, a condition where the body is temporarily unable to move while falling asleep or waking up. In this state, the brain is partially conscious while still in a dreamlike condition, which can cause vivid hallucinations. The fear and immobility amplify the sense of danger, making the hallucinated figures feel more real. However, not all sightings happen during sleep. Some occur in full consciousness, in broad daylight, and are witnessed by multiple people. These accounts have led some to believe shadow people are not just neurological illusions, but entities that exist outside our perception, only briefly visible under specific conditions. Picture standing alone in a hallway. You feel watched. You turn quickly, expecting nothing. But there, at the edge of the frame, a shadow stands without casting one. You blink, and it is gone. You question whether it was ever there, but the chill remains. Most people think fear comes from what we see clearly. Sometimes, it comes from what refuses to be seen at all. Spontaneous human combustion. You walk into a room and find a body burned to ashes. Everything around it is untouched. The furniture is intact. The floor is clean. Only the person is gone. No signs of fire. No signs of struggle. Just a pile of ash and a single leg or arm left unburned. Spontaneous human combustion is the mysterious and unexplained burning of a human body without any known external source of ignition. In reported cases, the fire appears to start from within the body and consumes it almost entirely, leaving the surroundings relatively unaffected. This goes against what we know about fire behavior and forensic science. Scientists have attempted to explain these cases through various theories. One involves the wick effect, where a small flame ignites the clothing and body fat, allowing the body to slowly burn like a candle. Another theory links it to static electricity, alcohol consumption, or undiagnosed medical conditions. But none of these fully explain how such high temperatures could be reached without burning nearby objects. These incidents are rare but well documented. Historical cases date back to the 17th century, and forensic files from multiple countries include photos and reports that defy logical patterns. In most examples, the victims were alone, at rest, and near an open flame like a fireplace or candle. But many cases still show no ignition source at all. Visualize finding a quiet living room with an untouched rug, a calm lamp still glowing, and beside the armchair, only a fine layer of ash where someone once sat. No smoke, no smell of burning fabric. Just silence. We are taught that fire needs fuel, oxygen, and heat to begin. But these cases whisper that sometimes the flame does not come from outside. It comes from within. I've died before. Why do some people recall the moment of their own death in vivid detail, even though they are still alive? Why do children sometimes describe how they died in another life, giving dates, names, and locations with shocking accuracy? The phrase, "I've died before," is often linked to claims of reincarnation or past life memories. While science does not confirm reincarnation, there are thousands of documented cases where people, especially young children, describe previous lives they could not have learned about through normal means. These accounts are often investigated and cross-referenced with historical records, sometimes revealing details that were never public. Psychologists explain this using concepts like cryptomnesia, where forgotten memories are recalled without recognizing their origin, or confabulation, where the mind fills in gaps with stories that feel real. However, these explanations do not cover every case, especially those where people recall events or identities that were never in their environment. Imagine a child who begins to cry every time a plane flies overhead. When asked, they say they died in a fire on a plane during a war. They describe uniforms, locations, even names. Their parents are confused. Later, they research and discover a pilot with that exact name died in combat during a war decades before the child was born. The uniform? Accurate. The fire? Documented. The details? Verified. Cases like this are most common in children between the ages of 2 and 6. As they grow older, the memories usually fade. Scientists are divided. Some argue for hidden memory. Others leave the question open. The belief that life begins only once may be comforting, but there are people who feel they already ended once before they began. Memory does not always begin at birth. Sometimes it carries something back. Books or articles you swear existed, then vanish. You remember reading it. You remember the title, the cover, the exact sentence that stayed with you. But now, when you search for it, it is gone. Not missing, not out of print. Gone. No one else remembers it. No copy exists. The book or article has vanished. This strange experience is a type of Mandela Effect. It is when a person recalls a specific piece of information or publication that no longer exists, as if it has been erased from reality. These memories are not vague. People describe the layout, the author, even the emotional impact the content had on them, but all records say it never existed. This phenomenon is likely linked to the way memory reconstructs itself. The brain stores pieces, not exact recordings. Sometimes, we combine details from different sources into a memory that feels like one solid truth. This is called source confusion. When reinforced over time, it feels just as strong as a real experience. Imagine finding an article online late at night. It explains something personal, maybe a study that matches your fears. You save the page. The next day, the link is broken. You try keywords. Nothing appears. You ask others. No one remembers it. You are left wondering if you imagined the whole thing, but the feeling stays. Cases of vanished texts are especially common in forums and blogs. Some believe algorithms bury them. Others believe these are glitches in how reality organizes itself. Whatever the cause, the experience feels real. We trust that if something mattered, it will stay. But sometimes, the things that shake us most disappear without proof they were ever there. Losing a fact is not always about forgetting. Sometimes it is about it being taken. Frozen people. You are walking through a crowd and suddenly notice something strange. A person is standing completely still, not blinking, not breathing, not moving a single muscle. You pause. They do not respond. Then, just as quickly as it started, they resume walking as if nothing happened. Frozen people refers to real-life moments when individuals appear to freeze in place for several seconds or more, often in the middle of daily activity. Unlike medical conditions such as seizures or fainting, these freeze events involve complete stillness, without collapsing or twitching. In most reports, the person continues exactly where they left off, unaware anything strange occurred. Some scientists believe this may relate to neurological glitches such as dissociation, microsleep, or absent seizures, where the brain briefly disconnects from conscious awareness. In other cases, it may be tied to overstimulation or intense focus. However, many of these explanations do not fully capture the eerie precision of what people witness in public spaces. Imagine a busy train station. People move around, check phones, sip coffee, then someone nearby stops. Not like they forgot something, not like they are tired, just completely still. Their eyes do not flicker, their chest does not rise. They look paused. A few seconds later, they blink and walk away. These moments feel out of place. They challenge our sense of flow and rhythm in human behavior. When the world glitches like this, it feels like reality hesitated, like a simulation missed a frame. We think time only freezes in stories or screens, but sometimes it pauses in people standing right in front of us. The reality swap overnight. Something feels off after waking up. The room looks the same, but the light seems colder. The city sounds different. You see familiar faces, but their tone is off. People recall events you do not remember, and what you remember, no one else seems to know. The reality swap overnight is a reported experience where individuals wake up feeling like they have shifted into a slightly different version of their world. It is not dramatic like time travel or amnesia. It is subtle. A name spelled differently. A landmark changed. A relationship dynamic altered in ways only you seem to notice. Some theories suggest this could be caused by false memories, psychological shifts during sleep, or intense dreams blending into waking perception. Others tie it to quantum multiverse theories, where your consciousness shifts from one timeline to another due to a trigger like near-death, trauma, or extreme stress. Though there is no scientific proof for this, the consistency in reports makes the experience hard to dismiss. Picture going to your office and hearing your coworker say something you know they never would. You try to recall the last conversation, but it does not match. You ask about a project, but they insist it never happened. You feel unsteady, not because the world is unrecognizable, but because it is almost too familiar with the wrong details. Reality feels permanent until it changes quietly, and you are the only one who notices it. Most people believe you always wake up in the same world you went to sleep in. Some wake up somewhere just a little off. The backroom feeling. The moment the room is entered, something feels off. The air is too still, and the lights buzz faintly. The walls are too yellow. There are no windows, no clocks, and no clear exit. You are not in danger, but something deep inside you wants to leave. The backroom feeling describes a sense of eerie discomfort in certain spaces that feel artificial, endless, or out of place. These spaces often include poorly lit hallways, abandoned offices, old storage facilities, or mismatched building interiors. The feeling is not fear. It is detachment, like you are in a copy of reality that was never meant to be seen. The idea became popular through internet stories and images of liminal space transitional areas like stairwells, hotel corridors, or parking lots that feel familiar but empty. Psychologists explain this feeling through cognitive dissonance. When a place looks real but lacks human cues like furniture, natural light, or personal items, your brain struggles to place it. The result is unease. Imagine walking through a building and taking a wrong turn. You open a door and find yourself in a massive carpeted room with humming ceiling lights and no windows. There is no sound except your own footsteps. You turn to leave, but the door behind you is gone. Every corner leads to more of the same. It feels like a level of reality built without logic. The backroom feeling reveals how much we rely on tiny signals to trust our surroundings. Remove those cues, and even the most normal room can feel wrong. We think space becomes strange when it is far away. But sometimes, the strangest places are just one door away from normal. The phone call that never happened. You remember the sound of it, the exact words, maybe the time of day, the tone of voice, even what you were doing when it rang. But when you check your call log, it is not there. No record, no number. No one else remembers it. The phone call never happened. This experience is part of a broader category of memory anomalies, where someone recalls a vivid and specific event that leaves no trace in reality. These moments often occur during emotionally heightened states, times of stress, or just before or after sleep. The memory feels sharp and true, but every source of external confirmation says it did not happen. Psychologists connect this experience to a few possible causes. One is a hypnagogic hallucination, which can occur when someone is falling asleep or waking up. The brain may create sensory impressions, including hearing voices, tones, or ringing, and blend them into short memories. Another explanation is confabulation, where the brain unintentionally fills in missing pieces with details that feel real. Imagine this. You are sitting in your room scrolling through your phone. It is quiet. Suddenly, your phone rings. You answer. A friend's voice says something strange. Maybe they warn you. Maybe they mention something personal. It feels serious. The call ends. You go to check the log. Nothing is there. No missed call. No incoming call. You message the friend. They say they never called. You are sure you are not making it up, but the evidence is gone. People often blame glitches, dreams, or spiritual signs. Others search endlessly for a logical cause, but what stays is the certainty of that voice. Memory is not proof of reality. It is just the mind's version of what it wants to make real. Double existence. What if someone saw you somewhere you have never been? What if they describe your clothes, your words, even the time you were there, but you know you were somewhere else? Double existence is the experience of being reported in two places at once. People who encounter this say others have claimed to see them in locations they never visited, or doing things they never did. The reports are usually vivid and specific, and the person being described often has no memory of it. Scientifically, this overlaps with what is known as a doppelganger encounter. It can also involve false memories, mistaken identity, or simply the human brain's powerful ability to fill in gaps with familiar faces. Now imagine this. You are at work one morning. A friend walks in and asks how your trip to the cafe went. You laugh and say you never went. They look confused. They saw you there. They describe what you ordered. They say you were sitting by the window. You check your messages. No one else was at that cafe, but others also confirm they saw you. And you know without a doubt you were never there. These reports are sometimes dismissed as coincidences or errors, but when they involve many witnesses or when they repeat across time and locations, they leave people with a deeper question. Is it possible for reality to replicate you? Double existence is not just about being mistaken for someone else. It is about the fear that part of your life may be happening without your awareness, that your presence can be duplicated without your consent. Being seen does not always mean you were there. Sometimes the world writes a version of you into places you never stepped in. You know a place you've never been. You walk into a building for the first time. Every step feels familiar. You turn a corner, already knowing what is there. You feel a strange comfort, like you have returned. But you are certain you have never visited before. This experience falls under the category of false familiarity. It can overlap with déjà vu, but it is more complex. Instead of a moment that feels repeated, it is an entire space that feels known. Scientifically, this can be caused by cryptomnesia, where hidden memories resurface but are not recognized as memories. It can also be triggered by similar architecture, patterns, or sensory cues that mimic something from dreams or forgotten places. Imagine this. You are on vacation. You enter an old hotel. You pause at the lobby. You know the hall leads to stairs. You feel sure that the third room on the left has a window view. You walk down and find it exactly as you imagined. No one told you. There were no photos. Yet you feel like you have been here before. Some explanations connect this to childhood memories, forgotten media, or even simulations in dreams. Others leave it open, suggesting the mind may tap into stored patterns that echo across places and times. This phenomenon challenges our idea of memory and time. If you have never visited a place, but your mind reacts with recognition, where is that memory coming from? Recognition does not always come from the past. Sometimes it is a prediction shaped by feeling. The belief that memory only flows backward is comforting, but some memories arrive before the moment happens. Glitches in photos. A photo is taken and everything appears normal, but later, something about it feels wrong. A reflection does not match. A shadow is missing. A face appears twice. The image captured something that was not there when you looked. Glitches in photos refer to moments when a picture shows anomalies that do not align with the reality as experienced. This includes visual distortions, misplaced objects, duplicated patterns, or impossible lighting. Some are caused by technical issues like camera lag, double exposure, or software errors. Others have no clear explanation. Imagine taking a picture of your living room. You upload it. You zoom in. There is a second version of your dog in the same photo, sitting beside the first. You check the timestamps. Only one photo was taken. No editing, no tricks. And yet, something duplicated inside the image. Photography depends on light, lens precision, and digital processing. Any of these steps can introduce errors. But what makes glitches in photos so strange is how they often reflect things that were never noticed by the human eye. Some claim these are signs of simulation flaws. Others believe they are just rare artifacts of timing and technology. What matters is not just what the photo shows, it is what it challenges. When an image shows something you did not see, it questions the reliability of your perception. A camera is trusted to show truth, but sometimes it captures something more than that. It captures an error in the fabric of observation. And when that error looks too real, it becomes impossible to ignore. A photo never lies, until it shows you something that could never have been there. Synchronicity. Synchronicity is when two or more events happen at the same time in a meaningful way, even though there is no direct connection between them. The events are not linked by cause and effect, but they feel connected. The idea was first introduced by Carl Jung, a Swiss psychiatrist, who believed these experiences reveal deeper patterns in the structure of reality. For example, you are thinking about an old friend you haven't seen in years, and they call you the same day. Or, you are going through a difficult decision and overhear a stranger saying exactly what you needed to hear. Scientifically, some researchers suggest that these moments are just coincidences. They argue that with billions of people and constant activity, unusual alignments are bound to happen. But others believe the human brain is wired to look for patterns and meaning, and sometimes those patterns reveal more than chance. Visualize this. You are reading a book that mentions a rare phrase. Later that day, a random song plays with the same phrase in its lyrics. You open your messages, and someone has sent you a video with that phrase in the title. None of these things were planned. Yet together, they feel like they are pointing at something specific. You pause. It is like the world is answering you. Synchronicity is often felt during emotional or life-changing moments. People going through grief, transformation, or deep questions are more likely to notice these patterns. Whether you believe in it spiritually or see it as a mental filter, the experience can shift your awareness. Most people think meaning only comes from logic and control, but sometimes the most powerful signs are the ones that arrive without a reason. Parallel news. Parallel news refers to the strange experience of people discovering news stories, events, or headlines that seem to have existed in another version before changing or disappearing. This often happens when someone clearly remembers reading about an event days or weeks earlier, only to find that it is being reported as breaking news much later. Others recall stories vanishing completely or being altered in content and tone from what they first saw. This concept connects to collective memory glitches and digital information shifts. In the age of online news and constantly updated content, information can be rewritten, removed, or revised without notice. Cached pages, social media posts, and headlines can change or disappear. Sometimes it is intentional. Other times it is the result of algorithmic updates or editorial choices. But for the viewer who remembers the original version, it can feel like the timeline itself shifted. Visualize this. You are scrolling through a news app and see a headline about a celebrity's sudden death. You pause, shocked. The next day, the same app posts the same news as if it just happened. You are confused. You ask others, but they only remember today's version. You search for your screenshot and find nothing. The article is still there, but the details are different. It is like history was quietly rewritten. While digital errors can explain some of this, not all cases have clear explanations. In forums and glitch communities, people share near-identical experiences of reading news that felt one step out of sync with the current reality. We are told that news reports facts and reflects what is, but sometimes it reveals what was and then denies it ever happened. Uncanny children. You meet a child who stares too deeply, speaks too clearly, or remembers things they should not know. Their words feel rehearsed. Their silence feels too still. They are small, but something in them feels older than you. The room feels colder. Your skin feels tighter, and nothing specific has happened yet. Uncanny children are those who behave or speak in ways that seem unnatural for their age. This concept appears often in films and horror stories, but it also exists in real life through thousands of reports from teachers, parents, and strangers. The feeling is not fear of danger. It is fear of misalignment. The brain expects a child to behave within certain patterns. When those patterns are broken, especially in calm, confident ways, the result is discomfort. Not because of what is happening, but because it is happening in the wrong body. Psychologically, this feeling of unease is related to what is called the uncanny valley effect. It happens when something is close to normal, but just off enough to trigger discomfort. It can occur when a child uses vocabulary beyond their years, tells stories with historical accuracy, stares without blinking, or makes social observations too precisely. Imagine babysitting a quiet 5-year-old. You turn off the television and she looks at you and says, "This is the part where you leave and I forget you again." You laugh. She does not. You pause. She keeps staring. You change the subject. She already has. Reports of uncanny children have included memories of past lives, exact predictions, and reactions to unfamiliar people as if they already knew them. These stories are scattered across cultures and centuries. We expect wisdom to come with time, but sometimes it arrives too early and wears a child's face. Waking up in a different body. Eyes open to a ceiling that doesn't look familiar. The sheets feel wrong, and the weight in the chest feels unfamiliar. You sit up and move slowly. You walk to a mirror and pause. The face looking back is not what you remember, but no one else reacts. They greet you like nothing has changed. Waking up in a different body is an experience some describe after sleep, surgery, trauma, or extreme mental shifts. This does not mean they have physically changed. It means their internal sense of identity no longer matches their body. In psychology, this can relate to derealization or depersonalization conditions, where the mind becomes disconnected from self-perception. In rare cases, it overlaps with body identity integrity disorder or extreme dissociation. Neurologically, our sense of bodily ownership comes from the brain integrating touch, sight, balance, and movement into a single model. If that system gets disrupted, a person may feel foreign in their own body. This can last seconds or stretch into chronic identity confusion. Now picture waking up from a long nap on a train. You feel heavy. Your hands look older. You touch your face, and it feels sharper. You ask the person next to you what stop it is, and they call you by a name you do not recognize. You laugh nervously, but they are serious. You check your phone. It has photos of you, but not the you feel like. That mismatch does not fade. These experiences are rarely spoken of, often dismissed as mental fog or dreams, but for those who experience them, they feel more real than waking. because the body is not just skin and muscle. It is a frame for self. And when the self slips, even your own reflection can feel like a stranger. The looping hour. Have you ever looked at the clock and felt like the same few minutes have been repeating over and over? Like you already lived this stretch of time but you are still inside it? It is not déjà vu. It is a stronger sensation. Like time itself is stuck on replay. The looping hour refers to the experience where a short segment of time feels like it is occurring again and again, in a way that cannot be explained by routine or boredom. People who report it say they notice the same events, phrases, sounds, or movements repeating within the same hour or even within a few minutes. It feels like being caught in a loop where time resets but your awareness does not. This concept is sometimes linked to neurological patterns, especially temporal lobe activity that affects how memory and time are processed. Sleep deprivation, extreme stress, or seizure-like brain activity can create the illusion that the same period is repeating. But many people who experience it are healthy and fully conscious. In those cases, the phenomenon is treated more like a glitch in subjective reality than a medical symptom. Imagine this. You are sitting in a cafe. You hear a woman drop a spoon, a phone ring, and someone say, "It's already 2. You look at your watch. It is 2:02. You take a sip of coffee. A minute later, the same woman drops her spoon again. The same voice says the same thing. You look up, confused. The clock still says 2:02. You feel no fear, just a quiet disbelief that time is folding in on itself, right in front of you. The looping hour reminds us that our sense of time is not always reliable. Most believe time moves forward in a straight line, but for some, it circles back before it moves on. Sinking feeling. What causes that sudden drop in your chest when nothing is physically wrong? Why does your stomach turn or your breath pause even though you are not falling? The sinking feeling is a powerful physical sensation of emotional or psychological disconnection that can occur without warning. Scientifically, this feeling is linked to the autonomic nervous system. It is a stress response, often triggered by a sudden perception of danger, confusion, or emotional conflict. The body reacts by slowing digestion, tightening muscles, and creating the sensation of dropping or falling. It can also happen when expectations are shattered in an instant, leaving your system unprepared to cope. Imagine you are about to open an important message. You are calm, even hopeful. Then you read the words, and your chest sinks. It is not fear, it is not pain, it is something deeper, something automatic, as if your body knows something bad just happened before your mind can understand it. This reaction is not only caused by bad news, it can happen during moments of surreal confusion or loss of control. People report it when they realize a memory is false, when they witness something that should be impossible, or when they feel completely out of place. The body sends a message before thought can form. Some associate this with intuition, a biological way the body alerts the mind that something is off. Others connect it to anxiety patterns or subconscious awareness of social or environmental danger. It is a reflex, but one rooted in centuries of survival behavior. Feeling your stomach drop does not mean you are weak. It means your body responded faster than your thoughts. The common belief is that thinking shapes feeling, but sometimes it is the feeling that alerts the thought. Reality flicker. What happens when reality feels like it blinks? Just for a moment. A light shifts, a sound skips, a detail changes and then returns. It is fast, subtle, but undeniable. A glitch in your surroundings that leaves you wondering if something just shifted. Reality flicker refers to brief, unexplained anomalies in perception. These can be visual, auditory, or spatial. A wall changes color for a split second. A street light flickers, but there is no power issue. A shadow appears and vanishes. These moments are often dismissed, but they are reported globally and frequently by people who are otherwise mentally stable. Neurologically, flickers can be caused by microseizures, eye movement errors, or brain processing delays, but not all events can be easily explained. When a person experiences these moments with high clarity and no external cause, they begin to question whether the world itself glitched. Now imagine this. You are in your living room reading. You look up and notice the plant in the corner is missing. You blink. It is back. You feel the same air, the same silence, but something tells you the room just changed for a second. You try to shake it off, but the discomfort lingers. Scientists studying consciousness say our perception of reality is built through predictions. The brain constantly updates what it expects to see. When there is a mismatch between prediction and input, it can cause a jolt or flicker effect. But these explanations often feel too mechanical to account for how strange and real these moments feel. Reality flickers are not errors in sight. They are tiny shifts in the system that holds your reality together. Most people believe reality is smooth and unbroken. But even a perfect machine can skip once, and when it does, you feel it before you understand it. Déjà entendu. You hear a voice say something, and a strange wave washes over you. You know you have heard those words in that exact tone before, but you cannot remember where or when. The voice continues. Your chest tightens. The words are still new, but your brain is already expecting the next sentence. Déjà entendu means already heard in French. It describes the sensation of hearing something that feels incredibly familiar, even though it should be brand new. It is similar to déjà vu, but instead of visual or spatial familiarity, it is an auditory illusion. Scientists link this experience to brief memory misfires. The brain mislabels incoming sound as a memory. It processes the same event as both happening and already happened. This overlap causes the eerie feeling that you are rehearing something for the second time. Now imagine sitting in a lecture. The professor introduces a topic. As soon as she starts speaking, you feel like you have already heard this exact sentence. The same pause between words. The same background noise. You glance around. No one else reacts. You are locked in that uncanny moment where time seems folded. Déjà entendu is not dangerous. It does not mean something is wrong. It is a common result of how the brain stores language and sound. If a new phrase closely resembles an old one stored in memory, the confusion can happen instantly. Our ears are trained to detect patterns. When they find one that is too close to a previous signal, they signal familiarity even when it is false. Memory and experience blur for a few seconds, and then everything returns to normal. Familiarity does not always come from memory. Sometimes it is created in real time by the brain trying to predict what is next. The skipped beat. While walking and breathing steadily, everything feels fine. Then comes a sudden pause deep in the chest. A quiet drop. Your heart seems to vanish for half a second. You freeze. Then it starts again like nothing happened. You check your pulse. Everything is back to normal, but the moment lingers. The skipped beat is a common name for what doctors call a premature ventricular contraction, or PVC. It happens when the heart's lower chamber beats too early, creating a pause that feels like the heart stopped. It is not a full stop. It is a disruption in rhythm. The next beat feels stronger because it comes with more blood than usual. Most people experience this occasionally, especially during stress, fatigue, or caffeine intake. It is usually harmless. Now picture yourself lying in bed at night. Everything is still. You are on the edge of sleep. Then your heart jumps. It feels like it missed a beat or gave one extra. You sit up quickly. You feel your wrist. It is steady again. But for that second, it felt like the system paused. Doctors say PVCs can be caused by dehydration, electrolyte imbalances, or too much adrenaline. For people with healthy hearts, they are generally considered benign. But the feeling can be so strong that people confuse it with panic attacks or fear of dying. The sensation is powerful not because of what it is, but because of where it happens. Your heart is the rhythm you trust. When that rhythm shifts, even for a second, your whole awareness snaps into focus. The body becomes a question instead of a fact. The reversal is this. What feels like failure is sometimes just your body rebooting between moments. What feels like a glitch is often a natural part of staying alive. Error 404 moments. A room is entered, but the reason for being there is forgotten. A familiar face is seen, but the name just won't come. You stare at a familiar word, and it suddenly looks wrong. For a few seconds, nothing connects. Your brain is still on, but the link is broken. It is an error without a warning. Error 404 moments are named after the web message that means a page cannot be found. In daily life, These are brief cognitive lapses where access to memory, language, or meaning disappears temporarily. The brain is still functioning. Speech may still work, but the target information feels gone, as if it vanished between neurons. Neurologically, these events are related to working memory overload, distraction, or momentary miscommunication between brain regions. When the prefrontal cortex is processing too much at once, or when stress spikes, the mind can freeze. Not in total shutdown, but in retrieval failure. This is different from long-term memory loss. It is like typing the right search but getting no results. Imagine walking up to an ATM. You know your PIN. You have typed it hundreds of times. But now, as you press the numbers, your mind blanks. Nothing comes. You panic slightly. Then, 30 seconds later, the number returns without effort. This small disconnect is unsettling because it breaks the illusion of constant control. These moments are common and harmless, but they reveal how fragile memory access can be. They remind us that the brain is not a perfect system. It works with speed and efficiency most of the time. But when a wire slips or a thought collides with another, the message just does not load. We believe forgetting means weakness, but forgetting can be the brain's way of making room to keep everything else running. Objects moving or disappearing. How can something vanish from the exact spot where you placed it seconds ago? You retrace every step, check every drawer, and ask everyone nearby. No one saw it. Then hours later, it reappears right where you had already looked. Objects moving or disappearing refers to the experience where personal items seem to shift location or vanish without explanation. These are not cases of forgetfulness. People often report searching thoroughly, only to find the item in plain sight later. In some cases, the object turns up in a strange location with no reason it should be there. One explanation is inattentional blindness, where the brain filters out obvious things when attention is focused elsewhere. Another involves memory gaps, where actions are done automatically and then forgotten. However, many reports describe events that defy even those explanations. Items like keys, remotes, or jewelry vanish from secure places and reappear under circumstances that suggest something beyond a simple oversight. Imagine this. You set your glasses on your nightstand before going to the bathroom. You return minutes later and they are gone. You check the bed, the floor, the drawers. Nothing. Hours later, after giving up, you glance back at the nightstand and there they are, right where you first put them. You stare, unsure if you missed them or if something else just corrected a glitch. While skeptics point to misperception or memory error, the consistency of reports across cultures and ages keeps the mystery alive. Most people think lost objects stay where they were placed, but sometimes space and memory shift silently without your permission. Frozen birds or insects. Can something in motion just stop without a cause? Can a bird mid-flight or a buzzing insect suddenly hang motionless in the air, as if paused by an unseen hand? Frozen birds or insects are events where animals appear to suspend mid-air without movement, sound, or momentum. Witnesses often describe seeing a bird flapping, then freezing, not hovering like a hummingbird but hanging still, as if gravity and physics paused for a moment. These episodes usually last a few seconds and end as suddenly as they began. Some scientists suggest optical illusions or camera shutter effects in videos could be to blame. In real life, certain lighting, glass reflections, or perfect head-on movement can give the illusion of stillness. Yet many reports involve people standing near the animal, confirming it was not an illusion and there was no string, screen, or structure holding it in place. Visualize this. You are walking down the street and notice a bird hovering a few feet above a power line. It is not moving, not gliding, just suspended. You stop. No wind, no drone. You blink, and it twitches back into motion and flies away like nothing happened. But something inside you knows what you saw. Cases like these fuel discussions around simulation theory and perceptual anomalies. While rare, they leave lasting impressions because they break the expected flow of reality. People believe that movement always continues once it starts, but sometimes even nature seems to hit pause. Street layouts changing. What if the street you grew up on no longer leads where it used to? What if a corner you always turn at now curves in the wrong direction? You check a map, ask locals, and everything agrees. But your memory insists it was different. Street layouts changing describes a disorienting experience where familiar roads, buildings, or paths seem to shift in structure or design. People report returning to a well-known location only to find the road longer, the entrance moved, or an intersection entirely unfamiliar. These are not places visited once. These are parts of daily routine or childhood memories that suddenly feel wrong. Urban development can explain some of this. Cities evolve. Roads are widened, renamed, or rerouted. But many experiences occur in towns with no recent changes or involve spaces that have remained unchanged for decades. In some cases, the person returns later and finds the original layout restored, adding to the confusion. Imagine this. You visit your old neighborhood. The park you played in is gone, replaced by an unfamiliar building. You ask someone nearby, and they say the building has been there for 30 years. You check old photos and see it too, but your memory is clear. You walk that path hundreds of times. Something does not match. These incidents may reflect memory inconsistencies or deeper perceptual misalignments, but their emotional impact feels larger than a simple mistake. Most people trust maps in concrete, but when a road changes and no one else notices, it becomes more than a detour. It becomes a crack in the map of reality. Sudden clarity. Have you ever been stuck on a problem, confused and overwhelmed, and then suddenly everything makes sense? Not gradually, not step by step, but instantly, like your brain unlocked a hidden door. Sudden clarity is when a complete understanding of a situation, decision, or idea appears all at once without conscious reasoning. Psychologists often refer to this as an aha moment or insight. It is different from figuring something out slowly. It feels like the answer arrives already fully formed. This happens when the brain makes connections behind the scenes. While you are not actively thinking, your subconscious continues working. When the connections become strong enough, they break into your awareness. This is why insights often come while showering, walking, or resting times, when the mind is relaxed but alert. Visualize this. You are staring at your computer screen, frustrated with a complex issue. You close your eyes, sigh, and step outside for a breath. 5 minutes later, as you watch leaves move in the wind, the full solution appears in your mind without effort. You go back and type it out with confidence, knowing it is right. Sudden clarity can shift relationships, creative blocks, or life decisions. Some people experience it after long periods of doubt or confusion. It is often remembered vividly because it feels different from regular thinking. We are taught that answers come from effort and logic. But sometimes, the deepest solutions arrive in silence, already complete. Reappearing scars. You notice a faint line on your arm. You do not remember how it got there. It fades over days. Then one morning, it is back. Same place, same shape. No new injury, no explanation. You ask yourself if you imagined it, but it is too specific to ignore. Reappearing scars describe the experience of old wounds or marks returning without new trauma. In medical terms, this can happen due to changes in skin elasticity, circulation, or residual pigmentation. However, many who report it say these scars reappear exactly as they were, sometimes years after the original injury has healed completely. Some claim to see scars they never remember getting in the first place. In dermatology, one explanation involves keloid or hypertrophic scarring. These can fade and return depending on temperature, stress, or skin changes. Another explanation could be phantom healing memory, where the skin reacts to internal inflammation by mimicking an old wound site. Now imagine this. You had a bike accident 10 years ago. You got a scar on your shoulder. After healing, the mark disappeared completely. Years pass. One day, you notice the exact same scar again, in the same spot. No new injury, no bump, just the scar, perfectly shaped as before. Some connect this to emotional memory, where the body physically replays past trauma under mental stress. Others see it as a glitch in old file that reactivates in the body's history. The body is expected to forget its wounds when the skin clears. but sometimes it stores the memory in silence. People believe healing means erasing damage, but some signs do not disappear. They wait, then return when the moment repeats. Echoes of voices with no source. Home feels quiet and still. The windows are shut. No music plays. Then a voice says the name, clear, soft, and close. You pause and look around. No one is there. You check your phone. Nothing. You ask neighbors. No sound, but you are sure you heard it. Hearing voices with no clear source is called auditory hallucination. In clinical settings, it is associated with mental illness or high stress. But in everyday life, it can occur briefly in healthy people. It is often a brain misfire during stress, fatigue, or moments of intense focus. The brain predicts speech patterns and sometimes fills in gaps with imagined sound. This does not mean someone is mentally unwell. Studies show that nearly 1 in 10 people hear their name called when no one is speaking. It usually happens during transitions between alertness and rest, or during quiet tasks like reading or walking alone. Picture yourself in the kitchen, cooking. A soft voice says, "Don't forget." You turn around. No one is there. The voice was real to your ears, not imagined. It matched the tone of someone you know. But there is no explanation. Some say these moments are memory echoes. Others believe it is your brain checking in, giving your thoughts a voice. In folklore, these events were linked to spirits or lost energies. In psychology, they reflect how close memory and perception are. Hearing something does not always mean it came from outside. The brain can project sound, just like it can project emotion. People believe sound only travels from the world in, but sometimes it is built from the mind out. Misplaced timelines. You remember something clearly. A major event, a celebrity's death, a product launch, a movie release. But when you look it up, the date is different. It is not just off by a little, it feels completely wrong. You ask others, and some agree. You are sure it happened earlier or later, but the records say otherwise. Misplaced timelines are a common type of memory distortion. They happen when people recall events happening at the wrong time or in the wrong order. This is not just bad memory. It is often systematic and collective. Groups of people remember the same event incorrectly, sometimes placing it years away from when it actually occurred. One explanation is memory compression. The brain stores key moments but often forgets the context around them. Over time, we reorganize these fragments based on emotion, meaning, or repetition. When timelines shift, it is usually because the brain filled in blanks with what felt right. Now imagine this. You swear the iPhone was released before 2005. You remember the excitement the first time holding it. You talk to friends. Some agree, but the launch date is 2007. You are not off by months. You feel like you lived with it long before that. The mismatch nags at you. Some psychologists say this is because memories are shaped by influence. Commercials, movies, and social moments all get mixed. The more confident you are, the more you trust the memory, even if it is wrong. Not all errors come from forgetting. Some come from the brain trying too hard to remember. Time is not stored like a list, it is stored like a puzzle. And sometimes the pieces fit where they do not belong. Identical strangers. While scrolling through a video, a sudden pause happens. Someone appears who looks exactly the same eyes, same smile, even the same way of blinking. But you have never met them. You show a friend, and they are stunned. You contact the person. They are just as confused. You have different names, histories, and lives. But you could be twins. Identical strangers, also known as doppelgangers, are people who look nearly identical despite having no genetic relation. This is not a myth. It is a real phenomenon with increasing visibility due to global connectivity and image-based platforms. In a 2015 study, researchers from the University of Adelaide used facial recognition software to analyze similarities across thousands of images. They found that certain combinations of facial features are statistically more common than we expect. Human faces are built from a limited set of structural patterns, and occasionally, two people inherit enough of the same ones to appear nearly identical. Scientists say There is about a 1 in a trillion chance that someone matches your face in every way. But when you allow for minor differences in bone structure or skin texture, the chances become more likely. Add social media, and finding your lookalike has never been easier. Imagine riding a train. You look up. Someone is staring at you. They look exactly like you. You both blink. You both look away. Your minds begin to question the odds. Is this random? Or does it mean something more? Seeing yourself outside your body triggers deep questions. It blurs the line between identity and form. You begin to wonder how unique you really are. The truth is, most people believe their face is one of a kind. But statistically, your reflection might be living a completely different life in another city. Unexplainable instincts. You avoid a turn without knowing why, and later learn there was an accident on that road. You feel uneasy around someone others trust. You make a quick decision that seems random, but it saves you hours. These moments are not planned. They are not logical. They are instinct. Unexplainable instincts are decisions, reactions, or feelings that arise suddenly and without conscious reasoning. While they may seem mystical, science offers grounded explanations. These instincts are the result of rapid, unconscious information processing. Your brain absorbs cues from the environment, body language, facial expressions, patterns, sounds, and makes predictions before you are aware of them. Neurologically, the amygdala and other brain regions linked to survival and emotion play a role. When these areas detect something subtle that feels off or dangerous, they send signals to the body before the rational brain can evaluate the situation. That is why you feel something before you understand it. Now picture this. You are about to step into an elevator. Everything looks fine, but something makes you hesitate. You do not know why. You take the stairs. Later, you hear the elevator stalled for 30 minutes. No one was hurt, but you realize you had no reason to avoid it. And yet you did. These instincts are sharpened by experience. Even when you cannot name that experience, your body remembers what your mind forgets. It stores every glance, tone, and result in small ways, and recalls them in moments of urgency. The mistake people often make is ignoring these signals because they cannot explain them. But the body and brain are smarter than we credit them for. They track patterns we miss. You do not need full data to make a correct decision. Sometimes your system already knows enough. Awareness is not always verbal. Sometimes it moves before language catches up. Synchronized strangers. At a cafe, a stranger across the room lifts their cup at the exact same moment. A quick glance is exchanged. Then both of you smile at the same time. Then look away together. You check your phone. They do the same. For the next 5 minutes, your actions match without effort. You have never met. But something is aligned. Synchronized strangers refer to moments when two or more people who do not know each other behave in nearly identical ways at the same time. This includes gestures, reactions, postures, or even decisions. It may feel like coincidence, but cognitive science suggests something deeper. Humans are wired for mirroring. This is due to mirror neurons, brain cells that activate both when we perform an action and when we observe someone else doing it. These neurons help us understand and predict others' behavior and form social connections. In some cases, they lead to unintentional mimicry that can look like perfect coordination. Social psychology also supports this. In shared spaces, people often fall into group rhythms without realizing it. This is part of what makes society function: predictable behaviors and shared emotional climates. We mimic without consent, especially when we are paying attention to the same things. Imagine boarding a subway. You and another passenger reach for the same pole, stop at the same distance, and both pull out headphones. You do not speak. But for the next few minutes, your body language mirrors theirs perfectly. It is not deliberate. It just happens. These moments are easy to dismiss as random, but repetition makes them harder to ignore. When you match someone else's rhythm so precisely without effort, it suggests there is more happening beneath awareness. We think strangers are disconnected, but under the surface, we may be moving as one. Doppelganger encounters. You walk into a cafe and notice someone who looks exactly like you, not just similar, but identical. They dress like you, move like you, and even speak with the same tone. You stare, frozen. They glance at you for a moment and walk away. No explanation, no conversation, just a silent confirmation that someone else wears your face. Doppelganger encounters are experiences where people claim to see someone who looks exactly like themselves, or someone they know in a place where they cannot possibly be. These encounters are reported across cultures and time periods. Historically, they were seen as omens. In modern psychology, they are seen as rare but real perceptual or cognitive phenomena. Scientifically, most cases are attributed to mistaken identity or cognitive bias. The brain is wired to recognize patterns, especially faces. In a crowded world, it is possible for two people to look uncannily similar, especially from a distance or at a glance. However, some stories defy those explanations. There are cases where people meet their own look-alike in a room where no reflection or camera is involved. Others have family members claim they just spoke to them minutes ago in a different location. Now imagine this. You are traveling in a different city. You enter a bookstore, and the clerk greets you warmly, using your name. You are confused. He says you were in earlier that morning. You insist this is your first time here. He shows you the receipt, your name, your face on the security footage, but you have never been there until now. While some doppelganger encounters are explained by chance or error, others remain unresolved. They challenge the belief that we are singular, isolated individuals. You are told you have one body and one face, but some moments suggest that the world can borrow your image and play it twice. Traffic glitches. Sitting at a red light, everything seems normal. Then, to the right, a lane of cars appears completely frozen, not inching forward, not braking, just still. For a moment they look like props on a movie set. No engines, no blinking lights, just a complete pause. Then suddenly, everything moves again like nothing happened. Traffic glitches describe moments where the normal flow of traffic behaves in ways that defy expectations. This can include cars freezing in motion, repeating patterns, duplicated license plates, or entire streets going quiet. While some incidents can be traced back to mechanical failures or environmental causes, many remain unexplained. In urban environments, we expect traffic to follow a chaotic but constant rhythm. When this pattern breaks, it creates a strong sense of unreality. Some people report driving past the same vehicle multiple times on a short road. Others describe seeing an empty intersection where there should have been rush hour congestion. Picture this. You are driving home, the same route, the same stop sign. You see a white car pull up to the side road. You continue. At the next turn, that same white car pulls up again. From the same angle, same driver, same gesture. It happens 3 more times. You are no longer sure whether you are moving forward or circling in a loop. Some explanations point to déjà vu, fatigue, or even momentary lapses in attention. Others argue these are glitches in perception or timing errors in how we process movement. Most people believe traffic is random and physical, but when a scene repeats with perfect precision, it starts to feel less like the real world and more like a program stuck on loop. Technology, glitching randomly. Your phone lights up. You did not touch it. It scrolls by itself. You check your laptop. The mouse moves without input. You reset it. Nothing changes. Then it stops. For no reason. You are left wondering if it was a virus, a ghost, or something else. Random technology glitches describe moments when electronic devices behave in ways that defy normal function. Phones call contacts without touch. Smart speakers respond to questions that were never asked. TVs turn on in the middle of the night. These events often happen suddenly and end without any logical cause. Some users dismiss them as bugs. Others feel watched. Modern devices are controlled by complex code, wireless signals, and external inputs. When something goes wrong, the problem is usually in the software, the hardware, or external interference. But sometimes, diagnostics show no issues. The system is normal, yet the behavior is anything but. Now imagine this. You are typing a message. Your phone auto-corrects a word into something strange, something personal, a phrase from your past that no app should know. You try again. The word changes again, to the same eerie phrase. You reset the app. It stops. But the memory stays with you. Experts might say this is machine learning gone wrong, or cache data behaving oddly. But what troubles people is the sense of intent behind the error. It feels not just technical, but targeted. Most people trust machines to follow commands, but when they move on their own or say things they should not know, the boundary between technology and presence begins to blur. Machines are not alive, but sometimes they behave like something is speaking through them. Shared dreams. After waking up, a strange dream is shared with someone. Their expression turns serious. They had the exact same dream, same setting, same people, same details. You did not speak before. You did not plan it. But your minds went to the same place. Shared dreams are reported by people who claim to experience identical or deeply similar dreams at the same time. These dreams may involve the same location, characters, or actions, even if the dreamers are in different cities or countries. While rare, the accounts are specific enough to spark curiosity and study. From a scientific perspective, dreams are created by the brain using stored memories, emotions, and fragments of thoughts. When two people share a close emotional connection, their dreams may reflect similar content. Synchronized routines, shared experiences, and cultural exposure can also contribute. However, some cases go beyond those explanations. People report dreams involving made-up places, unknown languages, or fictional people yet the dream content matches perfectly. Picture this. You and your sibling live in separate cities. One morning, you call them and describe a dream about walking through a glass maze while being followed by a silent shadow. They gasp. They had the same dream, same maze, same shadow. You describe the exit. They describe the same. You both dream the same sequence without ever talking about it. Some researchers suggest these are coincidences amplified by memory alignment. Others leave space for the possibility of subconscious communication or collective dreaming. We are taught that dreams are private, that sleep divides our minds. But some dreams do not stay inside. Some pass between people, quiet and invisible, like a thread running through two brains at the same time. Forgotten skills. A pen is picked up to draw like before, but the hand feels unfamiliar. The shapes no longer come. The control is missing. You were good at this once. You feel that certainty. But now it is gone, like your ability was stored in a box your mind no longer opens. Forgotten skills refer to abilities you once had that seem to vanish without a clear reason. They can range from musical talent, language fluency, athletic movements, or even simple muscle memory tasks. This is not due to age or damage. It is often the result of neural disuse. The brain, efficient by design, prunes connections that are not activated regularly. This process is called synaptic pruning. It keeps the brain focused and efficient, but it sometimes comes at the cost of long unused skills. Imagine you learned piano as a child. You played often, performed at school, and loved the feel of keys under your fingers. Years pass. You do not practice. One day, you sit at a keyboard again. You try to play. Your fingers fumble. The melodies are gone. Your memory knows the music, but your hands will not follow. That gap between past and present becomes confusing. You ask if the skill was ever real. Forgotten skills are not lost forever. They are often buried, not erased. With practice, many return faster than if they were being learned for the first time. This is due to what scientists call savings in neural pathways. Even when inactive, traces of that old ability remain. But the initial experience of disconnection can feel like a glitch in identity. You do not forget a skill because you failed. You forget it because your brain protects its resources. People believe talent stays forever. But in reality, the mind only keeps what you use. Waking up in the wrong position. Eyes open to a strange feeling. The head rests at the foot of the bed, and the body is curled in a way that doesn't feel natural. You feel twisted, disoriented, and not sure how you ended up like this. You try to remember turning that way during sleep, but you cannot. Waking up in the wrong position is a strange but common experience. It happens when the body changes posture during sleep, in ways that feel unfamiliar or disorienting. During the night, Your body moves through cycles of light and deep sleep. In REM stages, your brain is active, but your body is mostly still. During other stages, your muscles may shift to prevent stiffness or to react to dreams. Most movements are unconscious and serve to keep you safe and comfortable. But sometimes, you wake up mid-movement or right after a rapid change in position. The brain has not caught up to the body yet. This mismatch causes you to feel like you were placed there, or that you were in a position that breaks your usual habit. When this happens regularly, or with no explanation, it can feel like something beyond your control moved you. Now picture this. You always sleep on your back, but one morning you wake up on your stomach with your legs crossed and your pillow on the floor. You feel uneasy. You ask yourself if you had a restless night. You think of dreams, but nothing explains it. It feels like someone picked you up and turned you. This experience is often tied to stress, poor sleep quality, or sleep disorders like parasomnias, but it can happen to anyone. Your body moves without your awareness. The common belief is that sleep is passive and still, but in truth your body does not rest quietly. It adjusts, reacts, and protects, even if you never remember doing it. Repeating numbers. You look at the clock. It says 11:11. You get a message at 2:22. You buy coffee and the receipt total is 4.44. At first you ignore it. Then you start noticing it everywhere. The same numbers, repeating, showing up in unexpected places. It starts to feel like a pattern you cannot explain. Repeating numbers are part of what psychologists call pattern recognition bias. The brain is designed to notice symmetry, repetition, and patterns. It is part of our survival instinct, used to detect threats, predict outcomes, and find meaning in randomness. When we see numbers that repeat like 111, 222, 333, our brain locks onto them more than other sequences. This is known as apophenia, the tendency to perceive meaningful connections in unrelated things. Culturally, repeating numbers are often tied to superstitions, spiritual messages, or signs from the universe. Many believe 1111 means you should make a wish, or that it signals alignment in your life. While these meanings vary, the emotional impact can be strong. It makes people feel seen by something bigger than themselves. Now, imagine you are going through a tough week. You start noticing 444 everywhere. Your receipts, your battery percentage, your hotel room. At first, it feels like a coincidence. Then it begins to feel like a message. It comforts you, or maybe it unnerves you. Either way, you begin to expect it. This is how confirmation bias works. When the mind expects to see something, it filters the world for it. You do not see all the numbers you pass by. You see the one that fits the story. People believe the world sends signs through numbers, but often, it is your attention that shapes the message. The number did not chase you. You chased it. Phone call predictions. You suddenly think about someone you have not spoken to in months. A minute later, your phone lights up. It is them. No message before. No clue they would call. You pause and wonder if it was just chance, or if you felt it coming. Phone call predictions refer to the strange experience of sensing that someone is about to contact you right before it happens. It feels like intuition or mental alignment, and it happens to many people across cultures. While it is easy to label this as coincidence, researchers have explored how the brain picks up patterns far earlier than we realize. One explanation is subconscious priming. Your brain constantly filters emotional cues, recent memories, and background data. If you saw their name in your feed, heard a song that reminds you of them, or passed a place linked to them, your mind may surface that person without you noticing. Then if they call, it feels like prediction, but it was built on hidden signals. Another explanation is statistical. You think about many people in a day, but only remember the moments where thought and call match. The rest fade. This is known as confirmation bias. But not all examples are that simple. Now imagine being in a completely quiet room. You are doing something random, like brushing your teeth. Suddenly, a name enters your mind. You whisper to yourself, "I feel like she is going to call." The phone rings, her name appears. You check the time. You never texted. She says she just felt like calling. That moment sits with you longer than most. Even if science calls it chance, Your brain experienced it as timing and alignment. Some say it is memory. Others say it is energy. Either way, it proves that attention does not always follow logic. What you expect may already be forming in someone else's hands. Thought is not just in your head. It is how patterns prepare you for what comes next. Out-of-place objects. A drawer is opened, and inside lies a key that isn't familiar. The place is lived in alone. Questions are asked, but no one claims it. You put it back. The next day, it is gone. You start wondering if you ever saw it at all, but you know how it felt. You know you touched it. Out-of-place objects are items that appear where they do not belong, with no explanation for how they got there. They can be unfamiliar items in familiar locations or familiar items in strange arrangements. These moments confuse the brain because they break the expectation of environment. Your memory says one thing, but reality shows another. The result is disorientation, not fear. The brain wants to know what is wrong. This experience is common and has several explanations. One is inattentional blindness. You may have placed something while distracted and forgotten the action. Another is false memory. You believe you checked the drawer yesterday, but maybe it was the day before. But sometimes, the situation is too strange to explain with memory gaps. Now, imagine this. You are staying in a hotel. You open the mini fridge and find a marble. A single white marble. You do not own one. You are hundreds of miles from home. You place it on the desk. Later, it is in your shoe. No staff entered. No one is with you. You ask the front desk. They are confused. It sounds too small to matter, but it does. Small shifts in expected order can shake your sense of control. They make you question memory, space, and time. They are not proof of the paranormal, but they reveal how much you rely on consistency to feel grounded. The truth is, not everything misplaced was misunderstood. Sometimes, the world lets something slip through just enough to be noticed. Hearing your name randomly. You are in a crowded place. Voices everywhere. But then, clear and soft, you hear your name. You turn. No one is calling. No one noticed. But you know what you heard. You felt it in your body before your brain could question it. Hearing your name when no one is speaking to you is more common than most people admit. It happens in public spaces, quiet rooms, even while wearing headphones. The sensation is often brief, but the recognition is sharp. Scientists call this an auditory hallucination. It is not a sign of illness in healthy people. Instead, it shows how sensitive the brain is to patterns, especially ones that involve your identity. Your name is one of the first words you ever learned. It carries emotional weight and survival value. Your brain is trained to detect it through noise and distance. This pattern recognition system sometimes misfires. A nearby sound resembles your name's rhythm or pitch, and the brain fills in the rest. There are also emotional triggers. If you are anxious, isolated, or expecting contact, the brain becomes hyper-alert. A shoe scrape or whispered syllable might turn into your name without your awareness. This is the same mechanism that makes people think they heard footsteps when alone. Now imagine being in a bookstore. You are flipping pages. A low voice says your name. You look up. No one is near. You check your phone. Nothing. You stand still and feel a strange shift in your body. A blend of memory and presence. Something familiar in a moment that should have been empty. These incidents remind us that reality is not only what happens, it is also what your mind expects and prepares to receive. Hearing your name does not always mean someone called you. Sometimes it means you were waiting to be seen. Weird time loops. During a conversation, a strange feeling sets in as if every word has already been said before. Not just déjà vu. You can predict the next words, next reaction, even the silence that follows. The moment plays out exactly as expected, and yet you know it should not. Weird time loops refer to the perception that events are repeating in real time, with precision and awareness, as if the present is stuck in a repeating cycle. Unlike déjà vu, which is a fleeting sense of familiarity, a time loop feels like a lived repetition where the same actions, words, and outcomes replay in sequence, sometimes multiple times in the same setting. These loops are typically brief, lasting seconds or minutes, but their emotional impact is strong. Neurologically, some of these experiences may be caused by a misfire in temporal lobe processing or disruptions in how the brain sequences events. Memory confusion, fatigue, or altered states of awareness may also trigger these perceptual loops. However, when the timing, actions, and outcomes are recalled before they occur, many feel like something beyond memory is happening. Now imagine this. You are sitting in a classroom. Your friend drops a pen. The teacher says a joke. Everyone laughs. You think, wait, this happened already. You test it. You mouth the next sentence before your friend says it. Word for word, it matches. You try again. It repeats. Then it stops. The class continues like normal. No one notices but you. Experiencing a time loop does not mean you are hallucinating. It means your perception of time, for that moment, slipped out of its normal rhythm. You remembered the next moment before it began. Most people believe time only moves forward, but some moments do not care about that rule. They double back, quietly, just to see if you notice. Mirror mismatch. You look in the mirror and something feels wrong. Your face looks like yours, but off. Your expression does not match how you feel. Your eyes seem to move slower. The reflection lingers a little too long after you tilt your head. You blink again. Now it is normal. Mirror mismatch is the unsettling experience where your own reflection seems unfamiliar, delayed, or subtly incorrect. It is not just about lighting or fatigue. It is the feeling that the image you see is not quite yours. While most people are used to seeing themselves in mirrors daily, these moments can leave a deep sense of disconnection, as if something else is looking back. This experience can be tied to a psychological phenomenon called the strange face illusion. When people stare into a mirror for a prolonged period, especially in low light, their brain can distort the reflection, making it appear unfamiliar or even threatening. This is due to perceptual fading, where the brain fills in missing information with guesswork. In other cases, it can be caused by dissociation, stress, or fatigue, interrupting the brain's self-recognition circuits. Now picture this. You are brushing your teeth and glance at the mirror. You pause. The person staring back feels slightly older. The angle of their head is wrong. They blink just a fraction too late. You lean in. For a second, it feels like two people are watching each other. Then everything resets. Your reflection is normal again. Mirror mismatches often last only seconds but leave strong emotional reactions. They can make people question their own identity, memory, and sense of physical presence. The effect is subtle but memorable. You are told that mirrors show truth, but mirrors do not reflect your mind. And sometimes, when your mind shifts, the mirror reflects something else entirely. Shared speech glitches. In the middle of a conversation, both people suddenly say the exact same sentence at the same time. The words, tone, and rhythm match perfectly. You both pause. It feels coordinated, like a script, but you know you did not plan it. Shared speech glitches happen when two or more people unintentionally speak the same phrase at the same time, with uncanny timing and accuracy. This can happen with family, friends, or even strangers. Most people shrug it off as coincidence. But when it occurs multiple times in one conversation, or when the phrase is unusually complex, it creates a sense that something deeper is at play. Psychologists explain this through a mix of shared context, environmental cues, and linguistic alignment. When people spend time together, their language patterns begin to sync. They adopt similar words, tone, and cadence. This is called speech convergence. In group dynamics, especially among emotionally close individuals, the brain can anticipate what the other person will say, leading to simultaneous speech. Now imagine this. You are talking with a friend about a movie you just saw. Without warning, you both say, "It felt like the ending was never real." At the exact same time, you stare at each other. You laugh, but then it happens again and again. It is no longer funny. It feels orchestrated. These glitches can also occur during intense emotional or high-attention moments, when both brains are hyper-focused on the same outcome. It can also reflect the brain's predictive mechanisms firing in sync. Most people think speech is personal and unpredictable, but language is not just expression. It is a shared system, and sometimes two minds run the same code at the exact same moment. Animals freezing or staring. You are walking through a quiet neighborhood when a dog stops mid-step and stares at something behind you. You turn. Nothing is there. The dog does not blink. It holds that stare for 30 seconds straight. You speak. It does not react. Then, just like that, it moves on. Animals freezing or staring without clear reason is a behavior that feels unsettling to many. These moments often occur when pets or wild animals stop moving completely and stare at a fixed point for an unusual length of time. While animals can stare for many reasons: alertness, threat detection, curiosity, some cases involve patterns that seem disconnected from any visible cause. Biologically, animals have more sensitive hearing and smell than humans. They often detect changes in the environment before people do. A sudden freeze can be a survival response, a way to reduce movement and evaluate danger. However, when these freezes are directed toward empty spaces, walls, or behind the observer, the behavior becomes eerie. Now imagine this. You are home alone with your cat. She's relaxed on the couch. Suddenly, she sits upright, eyes locked on the doorway. Her ears twitch. Her breathing slows. You check the hall. Nothing. She does not blink. You wave your hand. No response. Then she relaxes again and walks off like nothing happened. Some researchers suggest animals react to infrasound, low-frequency sounds below human hearing. Others believe they can sense magnetic changes, electrical shifts, or even neurological activity in humans. Whatever the cause, the effect on human observers is consistent discomfort and curiosity. We believe animals only react to what we can see, but their senses work on a different scale. And when they stare at something invisible to us, we are reminded that our version of reality may not be complete. Phantom memories. A memory surfaces of standing in a specific hallway. The wallpaper was blue, the light flickered, and someone said the name aloud. You feel the memory clearly, like it happened last week, but your parents tell you that house never existed, that moment never happened. You even search photos, family albums, old texts. Nothing confirms it, and yet, you still remember. Phantom memories are vivid recollections of events or places that feel completely real, but which have no evidence or confirmation of ever occurring. These are not just forgotten or lost memories. They are memories that seem to exist without origin. In neuroscience, this is called confabulation, where the brain creates false memories to fill in gaps. It is not lying. It is a byproduct of how memory reconstructs rather than records. The brain does not store memories like files on a computer. Instead, it rebuilds them using sensory details, emotions, and related information. When pieces are missing, the brain sometimes adds imagined fragments to make a complete story. These invented details can become so emotionally strong that they feel more real than actual events. Imagine walking into a bookstore you have never visited before, but something about the layout triggers a flood of recognition. You feel like you have been there. You even recall a specific memento man reading in the corner, the smell of old paper, a soft jazz track. But when you ask the staff, they confirm this never happened. You are left wondering if it was a dream, a movie, or something else entirely. Phantom memories can come from dreams, stories told to us, movies, books, or even daydreams absorbed so deeply they become part of our memory landscape. They feel real because the emotional brain does not always distinguish between fact and vivid fiction. The mistake people make is assuming memory equals truth. But memory is not proof. It is belief shaped by emotion. What feels most real is not always what actually happened. False childhood memories. There's a memory of getting lost at a fair, crying near the cotton candy stand, and a stranger helping to find the parents. You tell this story often, but one day, your parents correct you. They say it never happened. You were never lost. There was no fair that year. Yet the memory feels like a core part of your life. False childhood memories are common and powerful. They happen when early experiences are shaped by stories, photos, or suggestions, rather than actual lived events. Because the brain is still developing during childhood, memories are more flexible and more vulnerable to suggestion. What starts as imagination or second-hand story can become stored as personal experience. In psychology, this is linked to source misattribution. It is when you remember something but confuse where it came from. Maybe it was a dream. Maybe it was something you saw on television. But your mind files it under personal experience. Over time, the false memory hardens. It becomes part of your story. Consider this. You tell your sibling how you fell off your bike and broke your arm at age 5. They look confused. You never broke your arm. Your older cousin did. You were there, you saw it, but your brain filled the memory with your own identity. Now it lives inside you as if it was your own. False memories are not always dramatic. They can be small changes. A holiday that happened differently. A toy you never owned. A trip you never took. But because they are rooted in childhood, they often feel more personal and meaningful than adult memories. The mind does not store childhood as a timeline. It stores it as fragments shaped by emotion and suggestion. The belief is that early memories are most accurate because they are from the beginning, but often they are the easiest to reshape. Time skipping in videos or clocks. You are watching a video. You are sure it just jumped forward. You did not skip. No buffering, but a part is missing. You check again. It seems normal, but you are sure you missed something. Or you look at the clock. It was 1:12. You glance away. When you look back, it is 1:14. You feel disoriented, like time jumped without your permission. Time skipping in videos or clocks is a strange but common experience. It refers to the perception that time has moved abnormally, jumping forward in a way that feels wrong or unexplained. While technical glitches can explain some cases, many instances involve psychological timing errors, attention shifts, or fatigue-related perceptual gaps. When we focus deeply, especially on screens, the brain enters a mode of reduced awareness of time. This is called time compression. It is why you can scroll for 20 minutes and feel like it was 5. But sometimes, the opposite happens. You feel you were aware the whole time, yet time seems to have leapt forward. Now imagine you are watching a documentary. You are fully focused. Then suddenly, the narrator is finishing a sentence you do not remember starting. You rewind. It is all there. But your brain skipped over a section without your control. It was not technology. It was your perception. Our brains use mental clocks to track passing time. These rely on attention, memory, and biological rhythms. When one system lags or skips, the experience feels like a jump. You were not unconscious. You were just not syncing with the moment correctly. This sensation is not about losing time. It is about how fragile our sense of time really is. People believe that time is fixed and linear, but your brain can glitch even in something as basic as counting seconds. And when it does, you notice not the minutes that passed, but the ones that slipped away. Freudian slip. While giving a presentation, the intended phrase is, "Let's focus on the final results." But instead, the words come out as, "Let's focus on the final regrets." People laugh nervously. You freeze. It was just a mistake, but it felt too accurate, too honest. Like your mind revealed something you were not ready to share. A Freudian slip is when someone accidentally says, writes, or types something that reveals an unconscious thought or emotion. The term comes from Sigmund Freud, the founder of psychoanalysis, who believed that these small errors are not random. He argued they are windows into repressed thoughts, hidden desires, or unresolved conflicts. Instead of dismissing them as slips, he believed they expose what is buried deep in the subconscious mind. Modern psychology offers several views. Some agree with Freud's idea that the unconscious leaks into everyday speech. Others suggest that slips happen because the brain stores language and emotions in connected networks. If you are anxious or emotional, your mind might activate similar words, causing the wrong one to surface. Now picture this. You are texting a friend to say, "Good luck with your breakup," but your phone autofills, "breakdown." You hesitate. It feels close to the truth. Maybe your brain made a mistake. Or maybe it knew more than you admitted. Freudian slips often happen when emotions run high, when we are tired, or when we are multitasking. They can be harmless or revealing. They can hurt feelings or uncover truths. But no matter the cause, they make us pause. You are taught to trust your words as conscious choices, but sometimes the words that escape you were never chosen. They were waiting. A slip is not just a mistake. It can be a message your mind sends when your voice is too careful to say it on purpose. Intrusive thoughts. You are cutting vegetables and suddenly imagine slicing your hand. You are near a balcony and briefly picture jumping. You are holding a baby and a violent image flashes for a second. You feel sick, confused, even ashamed, but you do nothing. You blink and move on, yet the thought remains, like an echo you cannot shake. Intrusive thoughts are sudden, unwanted ideas or images that enter the mind without warning. They are often disturbing, irrational, or completely out of character. People who experience them are usually not violent or unsafe. In fact, the more upset a person is by these thoughts, the less likely they are to act on them. Intrusive thoughts are common in anxiety, obsessive-compulsive disorder, and during periods of extreme stress. The brain generates thousands of thoughts per day. Most pass unnoticed. But when a strange or disturbing thought appears, the mind may overreact, treating it like a serious signal instead of random noise. This reaction, fear, guilt, panic can give the thought more power and cause it to repeat. Over time, the cycle of worry reinforces the presence of the thought. Now imagine you are walking through a quiet museum. You feel peaceful. Then suddenly you imagine knocking over a priceless statue. Your stomach flips. You keep walking. But the image replays in your mind again and again. You do not want to do it. You would never do it. But the thought keeps arriving uninvited. Therapists often treat intrusive thoughts by teaching people not to resist or analyze them too deeply. The goal is to see them as mental static, meaningless, temporary. The problem is not the thought itself. It is the fear that having the thought means something is wrong with you. Most people believe their thoughts reflect who they are, but not every thought deserves your attention. Some thoughts are not part of you. They are just passing noise, and it is okay to let them go. Color constancy failure. A white shirt is picked up under the soft glow of a bedroom lamp, but it looks pale yellow. Carried into the bathroom, it turns white again. You step into sunlight and it shifts to light blue, but you know it's the same shirt. You touch it. You confirm it. Yet the color keeps changing. Color constancy failure is the moment when your brain's ability to correct color perception breaks down. Normally, your brain adjusts the colors you see based on the lighting in the environment. This ability is called color constancy. It helps you recognize that a red apple is red, whether it's under sunlight, fluorescent lighting, or shade. But when this system fails, colors appear to shift dramatically or become unstable, even though nothing has physically changed. This effect is not rare. It happens often with photos, screens, and fabrics under mixed lighting. It is also the reason why debates happen over viral images like the famous dress, that some people saw as blue and black, and others as white and gold. Your brain uses context clues to decide what color it thinks something should be, and sometimes those clues are wrong or missing. Now imagine this. You are looking at your favorite painting in your living room. The colors are warm and familiar. Later that night, with only a small lamp on, you glance at it and it feels off. The green tree looks brown. The sky has lost its depth. You turn on another light and it shifts again. You feel disoriented, like the painting is not the one you know. Color constancy failure reminds us that we don't see the world as it is. We see what our brain believes it should be. Most people trust their eyes completely, but sometimes your brain does not correct the color. It invents it. Sleepwalking. You wake up in the hallway. The lights are off. You don't remember getting out of bed. Your feet are cold. Your hands are clenched. You feel like you just returned from somewhere, but you don't know where. Sleepwalking is a disorder that happens during deep sleep, where a person moves, speaks, or performs activities without being consciously awake. It belongs to a group of sleep disorders called parasomnias. It usually occurs in the first third of the night, during the non-REM phase of sleep. While most common in children, it can also happen in adults, especially during times of stress, fatigue, or irregular sleep schedules. When sleepwalking occurs, the brain is in a mixed state, partially awake and partially asleep. The motor system is active, which allows movement, but the conscious mind is disconnected. This is why people often have no memory of what they did or where they went. Sleepwalkers can perform simple actions like sitting up or walking, but some have been known to cook meals, drive cars, or leave the house all without waking. Imagine this. A man is found walking down a neighborhood street in his pajamas at 2 a.m. A police officer approaches him, and he does not respond. He walks around a corner and sits on a bench. Minutes later, he wakes up confused and frightened, with no memory of how he got there. He had been sleepwalking, triggered by stress and overwork. Sleepwalking can be dangerous, especially if stairs, streets, or sharp objects are involved. Most episodes last only a few minutes. Waking a sleepwalker is not harmful, but it can be difficult, and they may be disoriented or scared. People assume that sleep is a full stop, that the mind powers down. But in some states, the body keeps moving while the mind stays locked inside. Not all movement means you are awake. Sometimes, your body just forgets to sleep. Exploding head syndrome. While drifting into sleep in a quiet room, the body begins to relax. Then, without warning, a loud bang echoes inside the head. It feels like a gunshot or an explosion. You sit up, heart racing, only to find that everything is still. Nothing actually happened. Exploding head syndrome is a real sleep-related phenomenon. Despite the dramatic name, it is not harmful. It involves the sudden perception of a loud sound during the transition into or out of sleep. The sound is not real. It is generated by the brain, and often described as a bang, crash, shout, or electrical snap. No pain occurs, but it can be extremely startling and confusing. This experience is classified as a parasomnia, a type of sleep disturbance. Researchers believe it happens when parts of the brain involved in sensory processing shut down too slowly as you fall asleep. The auditory regions may fire off signals, creating the illusion of a sudden loud noise. It is not dangerous, but it is intense. Now imagine this. You lie down after a long day. You are half asleep when suddenly you hear what sounds like an explosion inside your skull. You jolt upright, breathing hard. You look around. Nothing moved. No noise outside. No messages. Just you in the dark, unsure if your mind just betrayed you. Exploding head syndrome affects up to 10% of people at some point in life. It is more common in periods of high stress, sleep disruption, or exhaustion. There is no specific treatment, but reducing anxiety and improving sleep patterns can help reduce occurrences. The name sounds terrifying, but the condition is harmless. The real danger is in how it makes you question your senses. Not every loud sound has a source. Some are echoes of a brain shutting down out of rhythm. Phantom vibration syndrome. You feel your phone vibrate. You check your pocket. There is nothing there. No call, no notification. You are not even wearing the device. Still, the feeling was real. Phantom vibration syndrome is the false perception that your phone is vibrating or ringing when it is not. It is common in people who carry phones regularly. Despite the sensation being so clear, there is no actual signal or movement. It is a hallucinated vibration triggered by the brain's expectation of receiving input. Psychologists explain it as a form of conditioned response. When you constantly check your phone, your brain gets trained to expect feedback. Over time, your nervous system starts to interpret unrelated stimuli like clothing movement or muscle twitches vibrations. The brain fills in the gap. It believes the phone is alerting you, even when it is not. Now imagine this. You are in the shower. You suddenly feel your phone buzz in your jeans on the counter. You rush out, check it, and see no missed call. You realize you were never even wearing it. Still, the sensation was precise and sharp. Your body was certain. Studies show that nearly 80% of regular smartphone users experience phantom vibrations. It is especially common in high-stress situations or environments where constant connectivity is expected. The effect is harmless, but it reflects how technology reshapes sensory perception and attention. This phenomenon is not about madness or malfunction. It is about habit. The mind becomes so trained by alerts that it starts to invent them. The device no longer needs to buzz. Your brain will do it for you. You think your body only responds to real signals. But when your brain expects the world to speak, it sometimes whispers all on its own. Semantic satiation. You repeat a word again and again. After a few seconds, it starts to lose meaning. The word feels strange. It sounds wrong. You wonder if you ever said it correctly at all. The letters feel like nonsense. Semantic satiation is a psychological effect where repetition of a word causes it to temporarily lose its meaning. The brain becomes desensitized to the signal, and instead of processing the word as language, it begins to hear it as raw sound. The more you say it, the less sense it makes. This happens not because the word changes, but because your neural system stops treating it as useful input. This effect was first identified in the early 20th century and has been studied in cognitive science and linguistics. It usually sets in after about 15 to 30 repetitions and can last for a few seconds. During this window, comprehension fades and recognition breaks down. It happens more quickly with abstract or short words, but it can happen with any repeated stimulus. Now picture this. You are practicing a speech. You say the word really 15 times in a row to get the tone right. By the 12th time, the word sounds bizarre. Your mouth feels like it is forming gibberish. You pause, confused, suddenly unsure if the word is even real. Semantic satiation shows how language is not just about sound. It is about meaning assigned through attention and context. When the brain tunes out the meaning, language collapses into noise. It is a reminder that communication relies on novelty. Repetition breaks down more than focus, it dissolves understanding. People believe that meaning is tied to the word itself, but the brain decides what makes sense. When it gets tired, it stops listening, and the familiar becomes strange. The doorway effect. You get up to grab your phone charger from the bedroom. As you walk through the doorway, you pause and forget what you came for. You stand still, confused, retrace your steps, and only then remember the task. It happens again and again. The moment you pass through a doorway, your thought disappears. The doorway effect is a psychological phenomenon where walking through a doorway causes you to forget what you were just thinking or intending to do. It has been studied and confirmed in research, especially in the field of cognitive psychology. The brain treats a doorway as a boundary between contexts. When you move from one room to another, your brain updates its mental model to match the new environment, which sometimes causes short-term memories to be flushed or misplaced. In a 2011 study at the University of Notre Dame, participants were asked to remember items while moving through rooms in a virtual and real environment. They forgot significantly more information after passing through a doorway than they did when walking the same distance in a single room. This showed that doorways act as event boundaries in the brain's memory system. Now picture this. You are in the kitchen thinking about sending a message. You walk to the hallway, past the threshold, and immediately forget what the message was about. You feel frustrated. You return to the kitchen, and the memory returns. It feels strange, like stepping through the door erased a part of your mind for a moment. The doorway effect is not a memory problem. It is a function of how your brain organizes experiences. When you change physical space, your brain assumes a mental reset is needed. We think memory is continuous, but your brain separates your day into invisible chapters. And sometimes, a simple doorway turns the page. Looking in the mirror and not recognizing yourself. After brushing the teeth, a glance at the mirror shows a reflection that stares back, yet something about it feels off. You look again. The features are correct, but the expression does not match how you feel. For a brief second, you wonder if the person in the mirror is you at all. Looking in the mirror and not recognizing yourself, even momentarily, is a documented but unsettling psychological experience. It is not a visual defect. It is a temporary disconnect between your self-image and your reflection. This effect can happen due to fatigue, dissociation, or neurological misfiring in how the brain links internal identity with external appearance. This experience is related to the strange face illusion. When you stare into a mirror for extended periods, especially in dim lighting, your brain begins to alter your perception. Small facial movements are misread. Your image warps slightly, and for a moment, it can seem like the reflection is someone else entirely. Now imagine this. You are up late, standing in the bathroom. The light is low. You lean forward and hold eye contact with your reflection. Suddenly, you get the sense that your face is looking through you, not at you. It blinks a second too late. The face is yours, but it feels like a mask. You step back, heart beating faster. Then it fades, and everything returns to normal. This can be explained by how the brain builds your body schema. It links how you feel inside with what you see outside. Stress, sleep deprivation, or emotional overload can temporarily desync this link, causing the reflection to feel distant or unfamiliar. We are told mirrors reflect reality, but they do not show who you are. They show what your brain expects to see. And when that expectation flickers, your own face can become a stranger. Forgetting who you are for a moment. While walking alone or lying in bed, there's a brief moment when the name is forgotten. The past feels completely blank. You forget who you are. You know you exist. You know you are someone. But nothing about yourself feels real or reachable. Then, just as quickly as it vanished, your sense of identity returns. Forgetting who you are for a moment is a temporary lapse in self-awareness. It is not the same as amnesia or a memory disorder. It is a rare moment where your internal narrative breaks. In psychology, this can be a form of dissociation, where a person becomes briefly detached from their thoughts, identity, or surroundings. It can also be triggered by exhaustion, overstimulation, or extreme emotional states. The brain constantly updates your sense of self. This includes memories, emotions, and beliefs about who you are. When one or more of these layers becomes disrupted, your self-image can vanish for a brief moment. You are still conscious, but the part of you that says, "This is me," goes silent. Now imagine this. You are brushing your hair in front of a mirror. You feel fine. Then a strange emptiness fills your mind. You know what a mirror is. You recognize the object in your hand. But you look at your face and feel nothing. No story, no connection. You try to say your name, and it does not feel like yours. Then a few seconds later, everything comes back. You are you again. But something inside feels shaken. These experiences are rare but not dangerous. They often pass quickly, but they reveal how thin the thread of identity really is. Most people believe their identity is permanent, but sometimes the self slips out of focus. Not because it is gone, but because the system holding it paused without warning. People insist you said something you didn't. You walk into a room and someone asks why you said that rude comment earlier. You are confused. You did not say it. You check your memory. You even ask others, but the person insists. They quote your words exactly. You begin to doubt yourself. This experience reflects a cognitive phenomenon called memory distortion. It occurs when someone firmly believes you said something you never did. This is not always manipulation or gaslighting. It can happen because of how memory works. Our brains reconstruct memories rather than replaying them like a video. This makes them vulnerable to suggestion, emotion, and bias. A person may mishear something, fill in gaps, or confuse you with another person. In social psychology, this is related to the misinformation effect. When someone is exposed to altered information after an event, their memory of the original event can change. If someone strongly believes you said something, that belief can override actual memory, especially if they are emotionally charged or confident in their recall. Now, imagine this. At dinner, your friend says you once joked about a serious topic. You know you never would. You deny it. They insist. They recall the setting, your tone, even your expression. Others start to believe them. You begin to question yourself, wondering if you forgot something important. But deep down, you know it never happened. These situations can create serious tension, especially when trust is involved. They highlight how easily memory can be influenced by perception, belief, and narrative. Most people believe memory is objective, but memory is not a recording. It is a story the brain retells based on what it expects, fears, or assumes. And sometimes, people genuinely believe a version of you that never existed. Seeing a duplicate of yourself in public. While walking through a train station, someone passes by with the exact same face, same hair, same eyes, even the same way of walking. Your breath catches. You turn to look again, but they are gone. You are not looking at a photo. You are watching a copy of yourself move in real time. Seeing a duplicate of yourself in public is known as a doppelganger experience. It is one of the most surreal and unsettling anomalies reported across cultures. While most doppelganger stories are considered myths or folklore, some are grounded in real psychological and perceptual events. From a scientific view, this can be explained by lookalikes, misidentification, or memory confusion. There are only so many face and body combinations. Given enough people in the world, statistical probability says some may look almost exactly like you, but some cases are harder to explain. People report seeing a version of themselves from behind, or making eye contact with someone who shares their exact expression and clothing. These events often carry emotional weight, even fear, because they challenge the core belief that we are physically unique. Now picture this. You are sitting in a cafe. Across the street, someone exits a store. They have your posture, your coat, even the same bag slung over their shoulder. They glance in your direction. Your eyes meet. In that instant, you feel as if reality split. They disappear into the crowd, and you are left wondering if you just watched yourself walk by. These encounters are often brushed off or joked about, but they raise deep questions about identity, perception, and what it means to be singular. We are taught that no one else is exactly like us, but sometimes the world shows you a perfect copy and dares you to question what you thought was only yours. Friends remembering events you weren't in. You are sitting with old friends. When someone brings up a wild story, they say you were there. They describe what you said, what you wore, how you laughed. But you know for certain you were never part of that event. You even remember being in another city that day. Still, they insist you were there, and the others nod in agreement. This is a striking example of collective false memory. It happens when a group shares a mistaken memory and confidently includes someone who was not involved. In psychology, this relates to source misattribution and the social reinforcement of memory. When people share stories repeatedly, they can start to blend details from other events or people. If your name was mentioned enough in the retelling, the brain might plug you into the memory. This becomes more likely when you are part of the same friend group or shared a similar experience around the same time. The brain is efficient. If details are fuzzy, it will fill them with familiar elements like your face or voice. Once this new version of the story is accepted and repeated, it becomes hard to separate fact from fiction. Now imagine this. You are at a reunion and someone says, "Remember when you fell into the lake during that trip?" Everyone laughs and chimes in. But you know you never went on that trip. They even show a photo of a figure in the water. It is blurry, but they claim it is you. You feel like an outsider to your own story. These moments can create doubt, confusion, or even fear. They reveal how powerful memory can be when shaped by group consensus. Most believe memory is personal, but sometimes the crowd builds a version of your past for you. And if enough people agree, your absence becomes invisible. Items changing color with no explanation. How can something change color right in front of you without any logical cause? You swear the notebook was green yesterday, but now it is blue. You ask someone else. They say it has always been blue. You feel disoriented, unsure if your memory or the object has changed. Items changing color with no explanation refers to the experience of noticing a color shift in familiar objects when no physical change has occurred. It is not about lighting or visual illusions. It is when the object appears to have changed permanently, yet there is no trace of how or why it happened. This is different from normal perception errors. These moments leave a lasting sense of unease. There are psychological explanations such as memory misattribution, where your mind confuses details over time. Environmental changes like lighting can affect how colors are perceived, but many cases involve stable lighting and consistent conditions, yet the object still appears altered. Some people describe this happening with books, clothing, furniture, or digital files. Imagine you are using a blue coffee mug for months. One day, you pick it up and it looks purple. You ask your partner. They insist it has always been purple. You check photos. Every picture shows the purple mug. Your mind rejects it, but the evidence tells a different story. Color memory is surprisingly fragile. Studies show that people often remember the general appearance of an item, not its exact shade. But when that memory is deeply tied to routine or emotion, even a subtle shift can feel like a major breach in reality. Most people believe color is one of the most stable aspects of the world, but perception is always filtered through your brain, not your eyes. What you see is what your brain allows you to. And sometimes, it changes its mind. The feeling of being observed by the simulation. Why do you sometimes feel watched, even when no one is around? Why does it feel like something invisible is tracking your thoughts, your decisions, your doubts? Not by a person, but by something larger, something mechanical, something built to watch. The feeling of being observed by the simulation is the unsettling sense that reality is not random, but constructed and monitored. This ties into simulation theory, the idea that the universe is an artificial simulation, similar to a computer program, and that your consciousness is part of it. While this may sound like science fiction, major thinkers like Nick Bostrom and Elon Musk have explored this possibility using logic, mathematics, and philosophical arguments. The strange part is not the theory itself. It is the number of people who report feeling it, not in abstract thought, but in lived experience. The sensation that certain coincidences feel too precise, that certain people repeat phrases in exact patterns, that your thoughts influence your environment before you act. Now, picture this. You are about to text a friend. Before you type, they message you the exact words you were about to send. This happens often, too often. You begin noticing that each time you question something deeper about your purpose, a video, a quote, or a stranger immediately answers it. You wonder who is listening. Science has yet to find proof that we are in a simulation, but in quantum mechanics, particles behave differently when observed, suggesting that at the smallest level, consciousness and observation are linked. Whether metaphor or truth, the sense of being watched can feel very real. Most people believe they control their choices in an open system, but if the system is watching to adapt, then your choices may not be fully yours. They may be responses to something quietly adjusting the world around you. Pets reacting to things you can't see. Why does your dog bark at an empty corner of the room? Why does your cat suddenly freeze and stare at the ceiling for minutes? You wave your hand. Nothing is there. But they keep watching, alert and tense, like something invisible just moved past you. Pets reacting to things you cannot see is a widely reported phenomenon. Dogs, cats, and other animals sometimes behave as if they are responding to sounds, sights, or presences that are undetectable to humans. This can include growling, fleeing, staring, or even cowering for no visible reason. While many of these episodes have biological explanations, others remain mysterious. Animals have sharper senses than humans. Dogs hear in higher frequencies. Cats see better in the dark. They can detect changes in light, sound, and even magnetic fields. Some scientists believe that their unusual behavior may be reactions to subtle environmental shifts, like earthquakes, electrical hums, or temperature drops. But what unsettles people is the timing and context of these reactions, especially when they happen during emotional or quiet moments. Now imagine this. You are sitting alone in your living room. Your cat lifts its head, ears pointed. It stares at the hallway. You hear nothing. You feel nothing. But it jumps down and walks slowly toward the empty space, tail low. It hisses, then runs under the couch. You check every room. Nothing is there. Some connect this to supernatural beliefs. Others see it as sensitivity to things our senses cannot track. In both cases, the impact is the Siamese and curiosity. We believe we are aware of everything in our homes, but your pet might be tuned to layers of reality you are not built to perceive. Just because you do not see it does not mean nothing is there. Knowing you've lived this life before. Why does a road you have never walked feel so familiar? Why do you meet a stranger and feel like you've known them forever? Why does a moment unfold exactly as expected, but not as déjà vu, more like memory? Knowing you have lived this life before is not the same as remembering a past life. It is the deep internal belief that this exact timeline, this exact series of events has happened already. Not in a dream, not in imagination, in reality. A strong sense that this is a second rounder, maybe the third. Some explain this as a psychological effect tied to memory repetition, dream fragments, or even neurological misfiring. Others see it as a sign of multiverse echoes or a spiritual glitch. In many spiritual and philosophical systems, such as Hinduism or Buddhism, the idea of rebirth includes loops or cycles, but this feeling is more precise. It is not just reincarnation, it is repetition. Now imagine this. You are eating at a new restaurant. You pick up the fork, hear the song playing, and say a joke. Your friend laughs, but you already knew that laugh. You knew the waiter would drop a glass behind you. You even knew the total on the bill before it came. You sit quietly, not amazed but accepting, like you are living a file you have already opened. Some people believe this is a form of predictive memory, or that dreams spill over into waking life. Others call it simulation memory bleedware. Previous runs of reality echo into the present. Most people think life is linear and new each day. But if you ever feel like you are replaying a script, you might not be crazy. You might just be remembering something that already happened. Only this time, you are awake for it. Entire days that feel missing. Waking up, the date is checked and something feels wrong. Going to bed 2 nights ago is clear, but yesterday feels completely missing. You check your calendar, your texts, your photos, everything says it was a normal day, but your memory holds nothing. Entire days that feel missing refer to episodes where a person experiences a complete or partial gap in their memory for a specific day. This is not ordinary forgetfulness. It is a strong sensation that the day simply did not occur, or that it slipped past without leaving any mental record. This can happen during periods of extreme stress, fatigue, illness, or dissociation. It may also occur in the aftermath of highly repetitive routines where no new memories were strongly formed. The brain stores memories based on novelty and attention. When a day has no standout events or emotional changes, the brain may not encode those experiences strongly. In other cases, psychological defense mechanisms may suppress memories of overwhelming or traumatic experiences, creating a blackout effect. Now imagine this. You are asked about something that happened yesterday. A conversation. A task. You have no memory of it. You think hard. Still nothing. But your phone shows texts you sent. You even see a photo you took. Your body was there, but your mind wasn't. Some people report this sensation after long travel, illness, or intense mental withdrawal. It can feel like time skipped forward, like a whole chapter was removed from your life story. While the day did occur, your awareness never fully joined it. You believe your mind captures each day automatically, but memory is selective. And sometimes, the day is not forgotten, it was never clearly lived in the first place. Frozen cars in traffic that don't move. You are driving through the city. You stop at a red light and glance around. Every car is still. No tires turning, no blinking lights, no motion. Just rows of vehicles frozen in perfect stillness. For 10 seconds, it feels like time paused. Then suddenly, everything starts again. Frozen cars in traffic that don't move is a strange but reported event where people observe traffic behaving unnaturally still. Unlike normal stop-and-go congestion, this stillness feels absolute. No small movements, no shifting drivers, no engine vibration. These experiences are usually brief, but leave a deep sense of confusion or unreality. One explanation involves attentional blindness, where the brain momentarily tunes out external input due to distraction or fatigue. Another relates to urban synchronization, where automated systems like traffic signals or coordinated events can halt multiple lanes at once. However, the total lack of peripheral motion makes these moments feel like more than coincidence. Picture this. You stop at an intersection and look at the car next to you. The driver is not checking their phone, not moving at all. In fact, no one around you seems to be moving. It feels like a photograph. You check your watch. Time is passing normally. Then, the light turns green, and the entire street wakes up again. These events challenge our assumption that reality is always in motion. In a city full of moving parts, a moment of total stillness feels unnatural, almost staged. Most people think traffic is random chaos, but when all motion halts in unison, it feels less like a city and more like a simulation briefly waiting to load. Repeating the same moment in conversations. You are talking with a friend, and suddenly they say something you are sure they just said a minute ago. You reply and realize you are repeating yourself too. The words, tone, and order are identical. You both freeze. It is like the conversation rewound and hit play again. Repeating the same moment in conversations refers to an experience where a short segment of dialogue or exchange appears to occur exactly the same way more than once in a brief period. This is not the normal repetition of topics. It is an almost perfect copy of a prior moment, as if time or behavior repeated itself without intent. This phenomenon may be related to how memory and perception operate in real time. The brain constantly updates your awareness based on sensory input, memory, and prediction. A temporary error in this system, especially under stress or fatigue, may create a sense of relooping. It may also result from mutual mimicry in conversation where both parties unconsciously mirror each other's behavior. Now imagine this. You are laughing with someone about a joke. They lean back, say the punchline, and take a sip of their drink. You respond with your usual phrase. But then a minute later, it happens again. Same laugh, same lean, same line, same sip. You blink. You know this just happened, but the conversation moves on. These moments are rare, but unsettling. They make you wonder whether something just glitched, whether time bent for a second, or whether your brain played a loop too smoothly to notice the first time. We think conversations always flow forward, but your mind is not just recording it, is stitching time together as it goes, and sometimes it hits copy and paste. Staring at the clock and it skips a beat. A clock on the wall shows 11:08. A glance is given, then focus shifts briefly. Upon returning, it now reads 11:10. No sound indicated a jump. No movement was perceived. It feels like a piece of time was removed, silently. This sensation is closely linked to a phenomenon known as chronostasis. When the eyes rapidly move from one point to another, known as a saccade, the brain temporarily halts visual input. To maintain a smooth experience, it fills in the missing information by holding on to the first image seen after the movement. In the case of a clock, this means the second hand may appear frozen, or the time may feel like it jumped. This is not a glitch in the clock. It is a limitation of visual processing. The brain constructs time as much as it perceives it, often relying on assumptions when exact tracking fails. Consider standing in front of an oven timer, focused and alert. Suddenly, the numbers advance by 2 seconds, skipping a beat. Nothing was touched. No distraction occurred. The moment feels wrong, even if everything else is unchanged. Chronostasis can occur during any quick shift in attention. It is most noticeable in environments with steady rhythms, clocks, timers, signals. While it is harmless, the awareness of it leaves a lasting impression. Time is often seen as mechanical and external, but the mind does not always record each second with precision. Sometimes it pauses, guesses, and moves forward as if nothing was missed. Personal notes you never wrote. A handwritten note sits on a desk. The ink matches the favorite pen. The style, the pressure, even the slant of the letters looks familiar. It addresses a recent thought or a decision not yet made. The words feel personal, too personal, but no memory exists of writing it. This experience is often described as a form of memory anomaly. It may involve cryptomnesia, where a memory returns without recognition of its source. The brain retrieves an idea or phrase, but cannot connect it to the moment it was created, leading to the impression that it appeared from nowhere. In psychological terms, this could stem from automatic writing or unconscious scripting, where the mind records something during moments of dissociation, focus, or high emotion, but fails to tag it with conscious awareness. In more surreal interpretations, some connect these notes to altered states or parallel mental timelines. Imagine cleaning an old drawer and finding a sticky note with advice that perfectly fits today's challenge. It's dated last year, signed in a familiar hand, but completely forgotten. Family members say it's not theirs. The handwriting app confirms the match. These cases are rare, but powerful. They tap into the fragile relationship between memory and authorship. Even with evidence, doubt lingers. Writing is believed to be a conscious act, stored with clear memory. But not every message comes with a timestamp. Some surface only when the mind is ready to read them, and the idea that a note must come from the present may be the biggest assumption of all. Memories of a family member acting differently. How can someone you have known your whole life seem completely unfamiliar in a memory? Why do you recall your parents speaking coldly when others remember them as kind? What happens when the version of them in your memory does not match who they are now? Memories of a family member acting differently refer to moments where your recollection of their personality, behavior, or actions feels disconnected from who they are today or how others describe them. These memories are often emotional, specific, and vivid, yet they may not align with collective memory. This experience can be influenced by emotional bias, developmental perception, and how the brain processes personal trauma or conflict. The brain encodes memory through both factual and emotional layers. If you felt unsafe, ashamed, or confused during childhood, your brain may have stored a more exaggerated or filtered version of someone's actions. Memory also changes over time. The person might have changed, or your understanding of their actions might have matured. Now imagine this. You clearly remember your uncle yelling at you during a family dinner. You felt small, exposed. Years later, he insists it never happened. Your cousins laugh and say he has always been gentle. You feel alone in your memory, but it still feels real. You remember the tension, the silence afterward, the plate of food you pushed away. This mismatch creates emotional dissonance. You are told to trust others' versions, but your memory still holds the weight. Most people think shared history means shared truth, but your personal memory is shaped by how it felt, not just what happened, and how it felt might be something only you remember. A familiar voice calling from nowhere. Why do some people hear a loved one's voice when they are completely alone? Why does that voice call their name clearly, gently, and then vanish without explanation? A familiar voice calling from nowhere is a commonly reported auditory hallucination, where people hear the voice of someone they know, often a parent, sibling, or close friend, despite no one being physically present. These experiences usually happen during moments of stress, isolation, or transition. The voice is not threatening. It is often neutral or caring, but its suddenness creates deep confusion. Psychologists explain this as the brain's way of processing internal thought in an external form. When we are emotionally overwhelmed or tired, the mind may project inner dialogue outward. Because our brains are wired to recognize and react to voices, especially of people we trust, it might use that voice template as a coping signal. This is especially likely if that person is strongly connected to past memories or emotional safety. Now imagine this. You are cleaning your room late at night. You are tired but not scared. Then you clearly hear your mother say your name from the hallway. You pause. You call out. Silence. She is not home. No radio. No phone. Nothing. The voice sounded real. Real enough to stop you. These moments are unsettling but often harmless. They may not be signs of illness, but instead show how deeply our minds attach emotion to sound and memory. You are taught that hearing a voice means someone is there, but sometimes your mind speaks back in someone else's voice just to remind you that you are not alone. Your room rearranged itself overnight. Furniture that always faced one direction now sits at a different angle. A chair once pressed against the wall is shifted a few inches. A closed drawer is slightly open. Nothing major. Just enough to trigger unease. No one else entered. No pet could have moved it. Everything is out of place but not missing. This sensation connects to spatial dissonance, when a familiar environment subtly changes, and the mind cannot explain how. Small shifts in object placement, lighting, or structure can create a feeling that space has reconfigured itself. Often, these events are attributed to memory error, sleepwalking, or even microtremors. But when all explanations are ruled out, the sensation becomes harder to dismiss. A brain that memorizes the layout of a room uses landmarks to navigate. When those landmarks unexpectedly shift, the mental map breaks. This disconnection triggers anxiety or confusion even if the change is minor. Sleep-deprived minds or shifting shadows can enhance the effect. Imagine waking in the dark and sensing that the bed is not centered as before. The nightstand feels closer. A coat that hung neatly is now slouched. Everything looks normal, yet something insists it is not. Most believe space is stable and fixed, but perception builds space inside the mind. When that internal model updates without consent, it creates a break in trust. What feels like the room changing may simply be the brain's recalibration, or perhaps something really did move, just not while anyone was watching. You felt your body shift during sleep, lying still in bed, warmth surrounding the spine, air calm and quiet, then suddenly a jolt inside the body without any visible motion, not a twitch, not a dream. A sensation of shifting from one position to another, without physical proof it ever happened. This sensation relates to a neurological effect during hypnagogic or hypnopompic states, the transitions into and out of sleep. During these states, the brain is highly active even as the body is paralyzed. It is not uncommon to feel like the body moved, rolled, or lifted, even while lying completely still. This misalignment between internal perception and external stillness creates the illusion of shifting. The vestibular system, which governs balance and spatial awareness, can sometimes activate independent of actual motion. Combined with the brain's dreamlike state, this may produce the feeling of floating, shifting, or even being pulled gently sideways. Imagine resting deeply, and then feeling as though the entire body rotated or tilted, eyes open to discover nothing has changed. No blanket is out of place, no pillow disturbed. The room is silent, but the body insists it traveled. This type of experience is often linked with lucid dreaming, out-of-body sensations, or even early-stage sleep paralysis. It is not harmful, but deeply confusing when remembered. The body is thought to be anchored during sleep, but sleep is not a still state. It is an active process where perception sometimes detaches from fact. When that tether loosens, movement can be felt, even if nothing moves. A dream location that exists in real life. A detailed alley appears in a dream. Cracked bricks, a red door, a flickering lamp. Days or weeks later, the same alley appears while walking in a new town. Every detail matches. It should be impossible, yet the place is real. This phenomenon is called Déjà Vu, already dreamed. It occurs when a person sees something in waking life that matches a location previously seen only in dreams. While often dismissed as coincidence, the exactness in many cases raises questions about how memories are formed and recall. The brain stores fragments of images, patterns, and textures. Sometimes, dreams combine these elements into new environments that feel fictional. But when those dreamscapes appear in real life, it challenges the understanding of time and memory. One explanation is false memory alignment. A real location might have been seen briefly in passing or media, then resurfaced in a dream without conscious recognition. When the physical location is later encountered, it feels prophetic. Picture waking from a vivid dream about an underground train station with blue tiles and rusted signs. Months later, during travel, the same station appears. The air smells the same. The bench from the dream is real, yet no memory exists of ever seeing it before. Some interpret this as evidence of subconscious precognition or memory leakage between timelines. Others call it mental pattern recognition stretched to its limit. Dreams are believed to be internal only, but sometimes they walk ahead of reality. And when that path finally matches the ground beneath the feet, the question becomes, what dream came from where? Someone disappearing mid-conversation. How can a person be speaking one moment and gone the next without anyone else noticing? How can a live interaction simply stop without closure or evidence it ever happened? Someone disappearing mid-conversation refers to the experience of speaking with a person who suddenly vanishes or is never seen again, with no trace or explanation. These events are rare but deeply disturbing. Unlike someone walking away or losing interest, this involves an abrupt absence that leaves no memory for others or no proof the conversation ever took place. From a psychological standpoint, memory errors or dissociative episodes could explain parts of it. The brain may misprocess the start or end of the interaction due to stress, sleep deprivation, or environmental distractions. But when witnesses deny the person ever existed, or records show no one else present, It goes beyond ordinary memory failure. Imagine sitting on a park bench. A man joins, speaks clearly, shares a thought that fits a question on your mind. You blink, he's gone. No footsteps, no exit. People nearby say no one was sitting with you. Cameras show an empty bench. Some link these moments to simulation anomalies or dreamlike overlaps between realities. Whether through mental dissociation or shifts in conscious perception, the emotional impact is lasting. Most assume that every interaction leaves a trace, but not all presences come from places that can be recorded. Some are temporary insertions into your timeline, and when they leave, it's not that they walked away, it's that they were never here. Multiple people vanishing from photos. Why does a person remembered clearly in a group photo suddenly not appear in it? How can multiple people disappear from an image once used to recall them? Multiple people vanishing from photos refers to the phenomenon where individuals believed to be in a captured moment no longer appear in that photo. These are not cases of cropping or digital editing. The physical or digital photo itself shows no sign that those people were ever present, even though others remember them being there. From a psychological view, this may stem from memory misalignment. Over time, memories can attach people to events they were not present for. Photos often serve as triggers for constructed or combined memories, especially when viewed after years. But this concept becomes stranger when multiple people recall the same vanished person, or when old versions of the photo reportedly showed them before. Imagine looking through an old family album. A birthday party is pictured. Everyone agrees a cousin was there. They remember the joke he told. They remember what he wore. But in the photo, he is missing. Every angle, every copy, as if he was never invited. No known technology or psychological theory fully explains consistent memory shared by groups that contradicts photographic evidence. Most believe photos freeze facts. But photos can shift depending on how they are stored, viewed, or remembered. In some cases, the reality you recall may not be the version your mind allows you to keep. Missing floor in buildings. What happens when a floor that used to exist is gone? What if a favorite shop or a visited hallway simply does not appear where memory insists it should be? A missing floor in buildings refers to the experience of returning to a familiar place and finding an entire floor, level, or section no longer accessible or completely absent. This is not about renovations. It involves areas that were previously visited but are now denied by staff or not present on blueprints. One real-world explanation may involve false memory, where an individual confuses one building with another that looks similar. Another involves architectural changes that happened long ago, but went unnoticed until the moment of return. However, some stories defy these answers where access was consistent over years, or others shared the memory and confusion. Picture this. A college dorm with a basement lounge becomes a weekend hangout spot. After a holiday break, the lounge door is sealed. Maintenance says there was never a basement. Friends check and find no sign it existed, but phone photos, taken months ago, show it clearly. Some connect this to the Mandela Effect, where collective memory contradicts recorded history. Others see it as a glitch in the spatial mapping of memory and architecture. Most assume buildings are fixed in structure, but when a place once entered vanishes from design and discussion, it forces one to question whether the experience was real or permitted only temporarily by a version of reality no longer accessible. Waking up in the wrong reality. What if you wake up and everything feels slightly off? The room is yours, the objects are familiar, but something deep inside says this is not your life. Waking up in the wrong reality describes the feeling that the world around you has shifted overnight. It can be caused by dissociation, sleep inertia, or a disruption in memory processing during REM sleep. These moments often involve intense emotional reactions because your brain expects familiarity but senses difference. Now imagine waking up and noticing your phone's lock screen is in a language you never set. You walk into the kitchen and your favorite mug is the wrong color. You ask your roommate about a shared memory and they say it never happened. You laugh it off, but the unease does not leave. Our brains create a stable sense of continuity. When that chain is disrupted, even briefly, reality itself feels uncertain. It is not always a mental health crisis. It can be a normal but rare glitch in perception. Most people believe reality is anchored by facts, but sometimes it is held together by patterns, and if enough small patterns shift, your world feels like it rebooted without you. Being recognized by strangers you've never met. Why do some strangers greet you like an old friend, say your name, and talk about events you never remember? Being recognized by strangers you have never met is a disorienting experience. It usually involves mistaken identity, but some incidents go beyond casual confusion. People describe others recalling specific details or stories only someone close would know. This may be explained by lookalikes, shared acquaintances, or memory errors. Now picture walking into a coffee shop in a city you have never visited. A man at the counter smiles and says, "You're back, same order?" You freeze. You have never seen him before, but he remembers you. Our minds match faces quickly, often inaccurately. Sometimes people overlay your image onto someone from their past. Their brain fills in gaps with false confidence. Most think recognition requires familiarity, but memory is not always loyal to truth. Sometimes someone else's mind turns you into a character you never played. Frozen reflections in mirrors. Why does your reflection sometimes feel delayed, like it is waiting for you to move first? Frozen reflections in mirrors happen when your brain misinterprets visual feedback. It is usually a brief perceptual glitch caused by fatigue, dim light, or mirror placement. But it can trigger intense discomfort because the mirror is expected to respond instantly. Imagine brushing your hair and catching a pause in the corner of your eye. You turn quickly. Your reflection turns slower than it should, just 1 second. But it is enough to make you question what you saw. This can happen during dissociation, or when your brain is slightly out of sync with your visual system. It is not supernatural. It is a processing delay. But your instincts react as if something else is behind the glass. Most believe mirrors always show reality, but mirrors only reflect what your brain interprets. And sometimes, your mind inserts a delay just to remind you it is in control. The hallway that wouldn't end. Backrooms phenomenon. Endless yellow walls, dim buzzing lights, damp carpet underfoot, no windows, no exits, just hallway after hallway, repeating with slight variation. Turning one corner only leads to another, then the same again. It feels like a dream, but it lasts too long to ignore. The backrooms phenomenon is a modern internet urban legend, describing the experience of getting trapped in a seemingly infinite liminal space outside of known reality. It originated as a creepypasta, but it reflects a deep psychological sensation, the fear of being stuck in a familiar but wrong space. In real life, some people experience this sensation during dreams, lucid states, or moments of dissociation. The psychological explanation ties to derealization and the uncanny valley. These are feelings where places feel both real and artificial at once. Spaces like empty schools, silent offices, or looping corridors can trigger this response. The belief is that if a place exists, it must have structure. But sometimes, the brain builds spaces that fold on themselves. When logic ends but the hallway continues, the mind does not just get confused. It starts to believe it has left the map entirely. The clock that reset without touching it. A digital clock on the nightstand shows 3:14 a.m. A brief glance is enough to register it. After looking away for a moment, the clock now reads 12 o'clock. No alarm, no outage, no buttons pressed, just a sudden reset with no reason. This experience can relate to device malfunction, static discharge, or power fluctuation. But in rare cases where nothing else was affected, it challenges basic expectations of reliability. Digital clocks, especially inexpensive ones, can be sensitive to sudden surges or system errors. But when only the time resets and not the entire device, it feels less like a bug and more like a moment erased. Imagine seeing 5:22 a.m., then looking again, and it's back at midnight. Everyone else's clocks stayed unchanged. No updates, no outages, just that one quiet skip backward. Timekeeping devices are believed to be among the most precise and consistent technologies, but even they rely on inputs we do not always see. When they reset alone, it is not just the device we question. It is time itself. Dream rehearsal before real-life events. A conversation plays out exactly as imagined. The gestures, the tone, even the missteps. It all happened in a dream days ago. Now the real moment arrives and everything unfolds word for word. The sensation is eerie, like reliving something already rehearsed. Dream rehearsal refers to dreams that appear to prepare or predict specific future events with uncanny accuracy. Unlike vague déjà vu, this is structured memoria, detailed preview of something that hasn't yet occurred. It is often dismissed as coincidence, but many report these dreams being too specific to ignore. The brain simulates possible outcomes during REM sleep. These mental rehearsals help prepare for challenges, conflicts, and social situations. Sometimes, the prediction aligns perfectly with reality. When it does, it feels prophetic. Picture walking into a room and knowing exactly what the stranger will say next. Not from assumption, but from having dreamed it in advance. Every word matches. Every movement feels remembered. Most think dreams are random and chaotic, but sometimes they mirror real life with disturbing precision. And when that mirror matches too closely, it raises a quiet suspicion. Maybe the dream was not rehearsing reality. Maybe it was guiding it. Car GPS, still showing home after arrival. The car parks at a new destination, but the GPS stubbornly displays home. The map refuses to update. The arrow floats disconnected. The system believes the vehicle never moved. This phenomenon, while often blamed on GPS delay, sometimes lingers far too long. GPS relies on satellite triangulation. In areas with interference or poor signal, the system can lag or freeze. But persistent mislocation, even after full signal restoration, suggests deeper errors in data sync or positioning memory. Imagine arriving at a mountain lodge and seeing your car's map still anchored to your driveway hours away. The engine is off. The signal is strong, yet the system believes home never left. These glitches are rare but unsettling, because GPS is trusted without question. When a device designed to track motion refuses to acknowledge change, it forces a strange thought: what if only the map stayed behind, but not the car? Technology is believed to follow reality, but sometimes, when the world changes, the machine holds on to what it thinks it knows. And in that delay, a strange question opens. What if it is not just a lag in data but a moment where the digital world refuses to follow the real one? Shifted handwriting overnight. What if handwriting changes completely overnight, without conscious effort or explanation? The letters become wider, sharper, more elegant or messier, crooked, unfamiliar. This is called spontaneous handwriting alteration. Normally, handwriting remains stable in adults because it's controlled by consistent neural and muscle patterns. Sudden changes can result from stress, neurological shifts, muscle fatigue, or dissociation, where the mind detaches from the present. But some cases feel different. People report waking up to journals written in their hand but in a completely different style, one they do not recall learning or practicing. It can feel like someone else borrowed their hand during sleep. Now imagine writing in a notebook one evening. The next morning, the handwriting on the next page looks nothing like yours. The shape, tilt, and spacing are all wrong. It is in your notebook, in your pen, but completely unfamiliar. In rare instances, such shifts have been linked to identity fragmentation in psychological disorders, or even to creative breakthroughs, where the brain activates underused motor patterns. In spiritual circles, it's viewed as evidence of channeling or possession. Most believe handwriting is part of identity, but even identity can shift quietly overnight without warning, without memory, and without proof of who moved the pen. Dream memory contains future technology. How can something imagined during sleep later appear in real life, fully invented, functioning, and real? Some people report dreaming of devices or tools they have never seen, only to encounter them years later exactly as remembered. This is called precognitive dreaming or retroactive recognition. Often dismissed as coincidence, it becomes harder to ignore when details are oddly specific. Dreams are constructed from fragments of memory, emotion, and sensory input. But in some cases, they seem to organize these fragments into blueprints of things that don't yet exist. Imagine dreaming of a wristband that translates speech in real time. Years later, that exact product launches. The color, design, even interface all match. Skeptics argue these memories are rewritten after the fact. But neurological studies show dreams can predict patterns based on subconscious learning. Most assume dreams reflect the past, but occasionally, they may compile a version of the future one the waking mind hasn't yet caught up with. The stranger who knew your past. Why would a stranger know specific details about someone's life they've never shared? Full names, childhood memories, or secrets never told? This is known as a knowledge anomaly. It's rare, but unsettling. In some cases, it's explained through social engineering, online data leaks, or shared connections. But when none apply, it begins to feel like something else. Imagine waiting at a bus stop. A woman sits down beside you and casually mentions your grandmother's name, the town you grew up in, and a decision you made last year. When asked how she knows, she only smiles and says, "I just remember things." These incidents raise questions about memory, reality, and consciousness. Some attribute them to psychic ability, some to simulation theory, and others to mental lapses where people forget what they've revealed. Most people believe strangers start as blanks, but sometimes they arrive with pages already written.